Mortgage One Studios. I'm with you, Russ Clark. Good morning. It's Monday, 6 o'clock or 6:01. Let me start off with a disclaimer real quick. All content presented on the Russ Clark Show, including statements made by guests, commentators, and callers, reflects the personal opinion of those individuals and is provided for informational and entertainment purposes only. These views do not represent the official position of Mortgage One Studios, its owners, employees, affiliates, or partners. Mortgage One Studios does not endorse, verify, or guarantee the accuracy, completeness, or reliability of any statements made by third parties during programming. All right. Phone lines are open, 928-344-5258. I sent a quick text to our majority leader, Michael Carbone, this morning. He has recently visited a data center in Mesa and took some people with him. I know Jeff Stoner was one of them. I think he was one of them. And I just asked him a quick question this morning. I said, he's been visiting data centers. I'm curious on whether you support them now or think they are a problem. He says, I'm supportive of them. There is a lot of misinformation out there. Doesn't surprise me. I need to ask him is when would be good for him. To call in. And discuss. I'd be very interested in that. I see already callers are up. Good one. Read that Exxon is saying that unless the war is resolved within the next couple of weeks, we will see oil shock. I don't know what that is. He says it sounds ominous. Never should have started the wars. Never should have. Trump was wrong to have listened to Israel. I would disagree, but it's good to hear the other opinions. That's fine. The weather this week's going to be a shock. I don't know what oil shock is. I'll have to try to figure that out. But the right now, my understanding is oil's available, gas available. Some countries are hurting. We're not, other than price, and the price is formulated by national or world demand, not by our demand. The weather this week. It was 100 degrees yesterday. I didn't know it reached that. But today it's supposed to be 103 Tuesday, 105 on Wednesday, 104, 102, 100. It says Sunday will be down to 97, below 100. We'll see. Those things change. The evenings are still going to be in the 70s. Yesterday was 67. And be 71, 71, 72 around that area. So we're going to get warmer. And the El Nino was supposed to make us warmer yet. We had some weird spikes early on in the year, but don't know what it's going to bring. I keep looking at that news, with those weather guys talking about the super El Nino and how much extreme weather it's going to be becoming or bringing. It is already bringing, but it's mostly in the East Coast, Texas, Midwest, those kind of things. Not us. But once this El Nino starts, it's on. It's for the season. It's for the whole year. And eventually we'll get some and probably in heavy precipitation. Warmer weathers and then heavy precipitation. Let me see. Yeah, tropical stuff. A local nonprofit just hosted, and you've already missed it. You can't go. Colorado River cleanup. They do it all the time. It's the Lower Colorado River. That's the name of the organization. They hosted a trash cleanup. It took place on Saturday. Over 30 people volunteered, show up, and all that. And they said if you missed it, they're going to do another one in June. So pay attention. I'll do better getting it out there first. But they're on Facebook, and Outdoors Group likes to help out, do those kind of things. We've got a lot of good ones out there. that do something similar. I know Sprague Sports gets involved in it for hunting, not cleaning up the river so much as cleaning up lands that are used for hunting, making sure that we keep getting invited into those farmers' lands. Keep in mind, those private lands, they could post it for no hunting if they wanted. They don't, most of them. They don't. They contribute to Yuma. They care about the hunting. They care about the outdoors. But it's really nice we go in and pick up air, for those that don't pick up their own shotgun shells, that leave them laying on the ground, those kind of things. There are some, they do, and others go out and pick it up. If you have lunch, pick up the wrappers, do all those things. That's really good. We see Chick-fil-A, YPD, and YFD, the fire and police. They team up for Touch the Truck event. Took place at a Chick-fil-A parking lot on Saturday from 10 to noon. Families got the chance to meet police officers, firefighters, face to face. Climb aboard the fire truck, always a favorite. Police vehicles, learn about the gear they use and save lives and all that. Kevin Karen, he's the Chick-fil-A's director of sales. It's kind of good that a restaurant gets involved in that and invites them and has that opportunity. It's just a fun event for kids to explore the police department and all the vehicles and the fire department, their big trucks, and just get to know some of the officers in the area that they can get them to get to know them and stuff. Just bring community together. We need more of that, and Yuba's good for it. I appreciate Yuma for that. I do. Something that's there was just a quick article out there I grabbed that says to report issues in Yuma. Any issues through Click and Fix. Now, Click and Fix is an app for your phone. It's easy to download. You can find it on any of the phone's app stores. You just, whether it's no matter what kind of phone it is, Android or that other one. Yeah, I'm an Android user. But you can get on and hit the Click and Fix and take a picture of something and send it in along with a note of graffiti, something's tore up or whatever. And this one points out on Yuma parks. Yuma parks, keep them safe and clean and enjoyable. And that you can go into the Click and Fix if you see something that's related to maintenance. You see a broken swing or some graffiti or something tore up. It's a great tool. I don't know how long it's been in place. What, a decade already, maybe, that the Click and Fix program has been out there, and they respond to it quickly. It doesn't mean they're going to fix a pothole overnight, but they'll respond to it immediately and tell you what they're what's going to happen with it. And then they do fix things. I think I've used it just a couple times. It hasn't been much, but when I did, it was graffiti. It was graffiti in my neighborhood, so I did that, and within I think about 3 days or so. They responded and acknowledged to me that it was going to be taken care of, and I think within 3 days it was. It came right out, and that's so important, particularly on graffiti. Those are people signing something, want to get noticed, want to get their names out there, and they're proud of it, unfortunately. And if you let it stay, it'll grow like crazy. So just the fact they take it down, and the police take pictures of it. Because every time there's graffiti, it's a signature. It's a signature. People want to get noticed. And when they finally, capture the culprits that are signing their name to these things, not necessarily their name, but the name of their organization, little gang or whatever is going on there, they tie them all together and have those people pay restitution, to pay for that maintenance of cleaning it up. It's a great system. So use the Click and Fix rather than just complain about it. Use Click and Fix. That'll help them. Now, I read this. See, I read most of it. I looked at the article more, but there's a e-bikes, and I ride an e-bike, although it's in disrepair right now. I broke it, but we'll get that fixed. It shows a picture. This article shows a picture of a bicycle or an e-bike with two passengers, kids, running through a red light right into oncoming traffic. Now it was a near miss, and it just scares the heck out of me for a lot of reasons. One, somebody could have been hurt. Two, legislature's going to get involved now and try to fix it. And I just worry that they'll because there's a few idiots out there that they'll start taking extra steps to be on an e-bike or something. Actually, it was an electric bike carrying 3 people. I thought it was 2 from the picture. 3 people. Wow. And the question now is whether the state laws are keeping pace with e-bike use. And here's the problem, and here's the way most state laws are on e-bikes. An e-bike gets the same handling as any bicycle if it's a class 1 or a class 2. Class 1 and class 2 are lower horsepower, or not horsepower, but wattages, what they call 750 watt motor or below. And it's not a motorcycle, it's truly an assist bicycle. The difference between a 1 and a 2, a 1 does not have a separate throttle, a 2 does. You could engage throttle without actually pedaling. Which that's what mine is. Mine's class 2. I can goose the throttle if I'm going through an intersection or, if I want to get across the street real fast, get away from cars. And I usually do that because it's 80 pounds, and just to get it started, I goose it a little bit. Other than that, I'm basically pedaling. Although you get an assist, you do. The motor helps you with an 80-pound bike get up hills, go a little faster, all those kind of things. And it says Arizona's law separates e-bikes into 3 distinct categories, prompting multiple municipalities to implement strict new regulations. Numerous use are riding motorized. Now, these e-bikes, they won't even sell them to someone under 16. Unfortunately, parents are buying them or whatever. People are buying them and handing them to young people. And it's just too much. And not only that, they're handling them with these e-bikes that are much more powerful, not 20-mile-an-hour limited, and much more powerful motors. Like mine's a 750 watts. Some of these e-bikes are coming out with a 5,000 watt motor capable of 70 miles an hour. It's a motorcycle to me. It's not an e-bike, but these kind of things are going to hurt that industry. Let me take a phone call from Gilbert. Good morning, Gilbert.
Hey, Russ, I'm listening to what you're saying. So I've seen some of these idiots on e-bikes.
Yeah.
I told you about my near accident.
Yeah.
That kid could have been dead. But the fact that I do ride a motorcycle and I anticipate stuff like this.
Sure.
So, because you're talking about legislation, give us your solution, Russ. What is your solution to this? I mean, 3 kids on an e-bike? What is the solution to protect the youth? Give me your solution.
Well, I honestly believe any bike that's not a class 1 or class 2 should need a license. It should get, just like a motorcycle, it should have a tag, because it's more motorcycle than it is bicycle at that point. Once you get those bigger motors and that seems to be the trend. A lot of those, and also kids under the age of 16 just shouldn't be on them at all. They just shouldn't be on them. It's just I don't trust the development of their brains, and that's the way they're sold. Is it's adult only. There are no bikes made for kids. Supposedly, they're just not made for kids.
Yeah, I understand that, but when parents buy that bike,
yep,
I know they're responsible.
Yep.
So with legislation, that would prevent them from being able to ride that bicycle. Correct?
Well, make them responsible. Make the parents responsible for allowing their children to be on a bicycle that wasn't meant for children.
An e-bike. I've seen a lot of these kids with e-bikes running around here in the foothills.
Oh yeah. Well, honestly, I've never seen somebody make one. I mean, all the manufacturers that maybe they put that on there knowing that they don't want the liability of giving that or selling that to a kid, so they put that it's adult use only.
So should we have legislation to make the parents not let the kids ride that bicycle? That's my question to you. As far as
I don't have a problem with that one of saying the parents are responsible and that they could be the ones that's fine, not the kids, for allowing these
Yeah.
children to have these e-bikes. These e-bikes, they're designed to be pedal assist, particularly for us old guys that can't do a 20-mile ride. you know, just like a scooter for handicap or any of that stuff.
Oh,
Um,
right.
and it's just supposed to be, and it's classified as a bicycle. And then they got crazy with it, and now it's anything but a bicycle.
Right. Well, you see what's happening in a lot of big cities. These kids on e-bikes are all over the traffic, causing havoc. They are causing havoc.
Well, they're
And
doing,
I read it.
yeah, and they're on e-bikes, regular bikes, and small motorcycles. I mean, they're doing it all. But yeah, e-bikes are engaged in that too.
Yeah. I think it's the more popular because like you said, they can goose them and that. So they are a good thing has turned into a troublesome thing.
Well, that's with everything, I guess.
Yeah,
It can be.
Exactly.
But
It's like chewing gum.
But they don't need to
You know?
regulate this thing out of existence, or regulate it so that everything has to be licensed. I mean, it's a bicycle at the end of the day, unless you want to register all bicycles.
Right. Like I said, I just call it these kids. You know where I'm at with motorcycles. You know where I'm at with legislation. You know where I'm at with our freedoms.
Sure.
So I just want to see. You tell us what's your solution.
I'm about safety, man. And when you see these kind of things, now these 3 kids that were on one bicycle could have all been killed easily.
Easy.
They were not, and I saw that the e-bike was confiscated. It wasn't an e-bike. I mean, it was one of those high, because if it had 3 kids on it, that motor's not enough.
Right.
So it had one of those big motors on it, and it was off-road is what it was designed for. And they do make them for off-road. That's fine. But it's not going to follow the rules of a bicycle the second that thing hits pavement. And that's the way most states are right now. If it's a class 3 or above, yeah, you can't ride it where bicycles go. Period.
Right. But you don't need a license either, right?
No, but it's off road. It's made out in the desert and stuff. It's not meant to be on the road at all.
It's not made to be on the road, or it shouldn't be on the road.
Both.
But is it legal to be on the road?
No, it's no, I don't think so. Not most states. I don't know about Arizona right now. I don't know if they've done that, but most states only recognize a class 1 and a class 2 as being a legitimate pedal support bicycle. I mean, motor support bicycle.
Okay.
Other than that, and you can ride them anywhere a bicycle could go. But then they get into these, and I think most of them being sold now are these goosed up things that can go 35, 45, up to 75 miles an hour, and they're calling them bicycles.
Yeah. So to me, you need legislation for that.
Well, and they need to recognize, hey, those things are completely legal, but not on a road and nowhere that a bicycle goes. If it says bike path, no motorized vehicles, and I ride those every day where it says it's a bike path, no motorized vehicles. I ride them every day. And that's fine. I'm going to go as fast as a 10 speed with a regular, biker on it. But some of these kids, I mean, I'm seeing with motorcycles on those places, which are obviously, I mean, with real motors. And then I see some of these e-bikes that'll go so fast. It's so dangerous. It's too much. It's too much.
I haven't seen it. So this is something from me, myself. Well, I've been riding for a long time.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, when you're a passenger on the back of a motorcycle, bicycle, and you have someone in the front handling the handlebars, you're trusting your life to that person.
Oh yeah.
So before you get on that motorcycle or that bicycle to ride with him, know what he's all about. We just had a tragic accident, 2 weeks ago, where a 21-year-old was riding a motorcycle with a 17-year-old in the back. They were killed. Yeah. He trusted that guy.
Yeah.
And maybe the parents of that child trusted that guy. And they died because he was speeding on Gist Parkway. I believe that's where it was at. So when you get on the back of a motorcycle with a person that's on the handlebars, controlling the handlebars, know what he's all about, because your safety depends on his riding capabilities.
Right.
And that's my thing for today.
I appreciate it, buddy.
Bye.
Thanks, sir. in the state of Arizona, this article talks a little bit about the state of Arizona. First off, it mentions these 3 kids that blew through this place in Phoenix. It was in Phoenix. Nearly colliding with traffic. I mean, they just basically were lucky. They ran a red light, went right then, and the green light nearly took them out. And this article says some say many kids riding motorized bikes all over the desert area, which often breaking traffic laws and causing accidents. And that Phoenix, and it should be, kids shouldn't be on it. On May 29th, 2 parents were arrested in Gilbert for their children's e-bike violations. Good for them. So I guess it can already happen in the state of Arizona. May 30th, an e-bike and vehicle collided at the intersection of South Power Road and E. Haven Crest Drive in Gilbert, leaving the rider of the e-bike, who was not wearing a helmet, in serious condition. And yeah, I wear a helmet every time I'm on the bike. I do. I don't have to legally in the state of Arizona. But I'm going 20 mile an hour and off road, and quite often on gravel and all kinds of stuff. I've dumped it a couple times. I don't want to risk it at all, so I do wear a helmet, and I wear gloves just in case I do dump it, and I don't want that road rash on my hands. So I wear gloves, which with the fingers cut out or whatever. It's too hot. Arizona law divides e-bikes into 3 classes. Class 1, as I said, provide pedal assist up to 20 miles an hour. Class 2, powered by a throttle without pedaling, but up to 20 miles an hour. But it's also pedal assist. All the Class 2s are pedal assist also. Class 3 e-bikes, pedal assist only, but can reach speeds up to 28 miles an hour before motor cuts off. I didn't know they were pedal assist only. I know there's some out there that'll go 28 that do have pedals, but okay. Just each year, cities have updated their e-bike rules with new restrictions that include park bans, sidewalk speed limits, helmet requirements, and minimum age of 16, which 16 makes perfect sense. Helmets, I'm okay with. I don't understand the sidewalk speed limit thing. Park bans. I don't know. They ban bicycles too. I don't understand that. Also, DUI penalties. Yeah, driving. I think you get a DUI penalty already. You don't even need to add that. You get a DUI penalty on a horse. Mandatory safety classes and issuing fines for riders to try and rein in reckless e-bike riding. Yeah, unfortunately, it's going to get a lot of attention because of the ones that are abusing the system, that are just going nuts with it. But if I had to take a class, I'd be glad to do it. If making me wear a helmet is no big deal. I've never rode it without a helmet. Now, the restriction on parks would be a problem. I use the parks all the time. I stay off the roads, and there's wonderful bike lanes all over the place. I don't know what Yuma's done on that, but they definitely need to rein in these out of control kids. They do. Yuma School District 1 offers kids free meals for summer. I think that's ongoing. They always do it. School District 1 will begin offering free breakfast and lunch meals to children on today, June 1st. Today's June. Happy June. It's available for children all ages, 18 and younger. So you don't qualify. I'm sure people listening are all at least that age. Let's take a phone call. You're on the air.
Hey, good morning, Russ. How we doing?
We're doing well, Carl. Good morning, sir.
I gotta throw my 2 cents in there.
Okay.
I knew a friend of mine that his son owned a 4,000 horsepower Mustang, and I got to ride with that in that car, and I'm really amazed what you could do with 8,000 horsepower. So.
Oh man, Yeah, most people can't even hook it up or understand how to drive it. But yeah,
That's true. But
yeah.
when you do stuff like that on the highway, you break the law.
Yeah, and there's
So,
a price to pay.
and
buddy.
there's a price to pay. That's right.
Yeah.
So, but being the way people are, we will take the chance of breaking the price. And you talk about going out to the desert and riding sand buggies and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, if you couldn't scare the hell out of yourself once in a while, it wouldn't be worth doing.
Yeah, but you don't want to do it in groups of people and risk other people's lives. You stay safe.
When you're out in the sand dunes, your life can be you can have problems with your life anytime you step in that sand buggy. Or I'm going to go back to riding a motorcycle.
Uh-huh.
Or let's go back to riding a bicycle, because in my opinion, the mode of transportation that is the most dangerous for just riding around Yuma would be a bicycle, because you are put in odd places all the time. The next one that is most dangerous, and we see a lot of people killed from it. In the last 2 weeks, somebody was killed by it, is on a motorcycle.
Uh-huh.
So, I see motorcycles weaving in and out of traffic, and I see cars weaving out of traffic. So if you weave in and out of traffic, you push the envelope or you get killed real quick. So
you can, and you affect other lives, because there's going to be other cars involved, and it's just tragic. It is tragic.
And that is true. And going back to the sand dunes, you can be riding along in a sand buggy, and the bottom just drops out, and there's no bottom for 20 feet, and you crashed your car.
Yep.
So to me, I live in the United States, and if I do things that break the law, then I have to pay the penalty. If I go out there and ride a motorcycle, or if I go out there and ride a bicycle, and I run it off a canal bank, but should we stop riding these things because people crash them?
No.
No, heck no.
No, but you want to weed out the ones that are reckless, endangering other people. I don't know how you do that, but you weed them out.
But everybody rides them as safe they can, and they still crash them.
Oh yeah.
I drive my car as safe as I can, and hell, I still crash mine.
It happens. But but you also, I know you're out in the dune, but you also wear all the protective gear and everything too. You had a sense of safety.
I'm not wearing. That's right. So if that person out there riding a motorcycle in flip flops,
oh yeah, I've seen it.
That's his. I have too. That's his problem.
Yeah.
So
unfortunately. But at some point, it starts to affect all of us, and that's what this article was about. You're putting kids on these things, and they're weaving in and out of traffic in downtown Phoenix, and running red lights.
Well,
and then they're going to blame the bicycle. It's not the bicycle, dudes. It's not.
No, it's not the bicycle. It's the person.
Absolutely.
And that's what the rule of law is about. And there is a law in Phoenix that says you can't do that. And so when you do that and a cop stops you, you get a ticket.
Well, yeah, and there's some of those that shouldn't be on those roads. I mean, there are off-road vehicles are powerful. And there's already laws against it. We don't need to go stupid on the laws.
Yeah.
But legislatures, I don't trust them. All of a sudden, they want to bubble wrap everybody and shut down an industry.
Well, that's the problem. Is you want to get the government involved with it when we can pass laws, and so another one. One of the worst things you can do to most of these off-road cars or these razors and stuff is drive it on asphalt. That's the worst thing you can do to that.
Oh, really?
Is drive that on asphalt.
For the tires and everything, tear it up?
Yeah. Well,
the suspension, the whole bit. Yeah.
Well, how about both tires turning at the same time and going around the corner?
Yeah, it chirps around. It's not good for it.
Yeah. Well, where does that chirp end up? It goes through the tires, to the transmission, to the clutch.
Yeah, it's putting a lot of stress on everything, including the rubber.
Yeah. So but we still do it.
Yeah, we do. Because we're Americans.
do.
We'll tear it up if we want to.
Yeah. Well, that's right. But we're also Americans that we know where we can go to get them fixed, and we tear them up.
Yeah, that happens all the time. I know. We fix them. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me go buy it and let me ride it. And if I crash it, if it's my fault, I'll pay.
Yeah.
But
I don't want.
I'm not supposed to be riding a high-powered car or a high-powered electric bicycle down the highway. But if I do something stupid in it, then I pay, and that's the way it is in the United States.
Yeah, these things
It's
are
up to
not.
me.
They're not made for young kids. They're not. 16 and
No.
under shouldn't be on these things.
Well,
It's just too much.
16 and under shouldn't be on their damn cell phones all day long either.
No, and they shouldn't be driving cars. But they don't.
Yeah.
They don't. If they do, they got answers. But I like the fact that they arrested the parents on one of these things.
Yeah.
Parents let them do it.
Well, I don't have one grandchildren right now that don't know how to drive a stick shift, and they knew how to drive the stick shift probably at 12 and 13 years old out in the desert.
That's good.
So,
yeah.
Well, you got a stick shift and you got grandkids. You're not going to teach them how to drive that out there?
I've already been doing that.
Yeah. But, it's training. And you can see how good a child is going to be just on how they learn.
Right.
So anyway, that's my 2 cents for today. But, if you ride those, we have to be responsible for ourselves and our family. If you break the law, the court will take care of it.
Yeah.
Have a good day, Russ.
Thank you, sir. Take care.
Yes,
Bye-bye.
sir. Yes, sir. Bye.
Yeah, and I just don't want the laws to get stupid on it and start restricting, blaming the bicycle, instead of the operator. And there shouldn't be kids on the things. None of the manufacturers sell them for kids. There is no kid e-bike for sale. Parents are buying them, adult bikes, giving them to kids, and in my opinion, giving them an opportunity to be stupid. I'm answering answering Mike Carbone. I'm sorry. About he asked if I'm still on air. I explained that I'm on social media right now, but we're in the process of trying to buy the signal and all that kind of. One of the listeners was asking, 750 watts is slightly above 1 horsepower. I didn't know that. I know 750 watts is like the peak. It doesn't cruise at that. That's its peak output would be 750 watts. Can't maintain that, you'd burn it up. So like I said, it's pedal assist. And Carl says 8,000 horsepower. Yeah, there are engines with 8,000 horsepower, but they would be very specialized equipment for like drag racing or something. No, he meant 800 or 500 or 600. My son's Mustang was a stock Shelby, and it was 500 horsepower, but there are a lot of people that did tweak them up to 800 horsepower. 500 is so much horsepower on that light car. 800 horsepower, and the difference isn't going to be drivability difference so much because people can't handle the 500 horsepower as it is, or don't know how to handle it, don't know how to drive it and get the most out of it. You end up just burning tires off of it or something. It's a very fun car, and it's best I never own it because it makes you stupid real fast. It can. I drove it as much as my son ever did because he was, he's in the Air Force. He was gone. He sold it. I would not buy it back because it's just too much. I love it. I love car. It's too much. Getting back to, I wouldn't mind driving a car occasionally just for fun, like out on a racetrack. But I wouldn't want to own it. I'd like to borrow it, and drive it. The District 1 free lunches. Children's 18 and younger. Now, if you're an adult, you can accompany your child. You'd have to pay for your lunch and breakfast. Breakfast is $3. Lunch is $5. That's fair. And that way you get to eat with your children's. You can take them in Monday through Friday. Breakfast serves at 8 to 9. Lunch 11:30 to 12:30. No, you cannot take it to go. You can't go in and say, give me 3 breakfasts for my kids are at home sleeping. I want to take it to them. No, they got to dress and get in there. Or you don't get any kid. You don't get a free breakfast. You have to consume them on site. And it's at 4th Avenue Junior High, McGraw Elementary, Carver Elementary, O.C. Johnson Elementary, Palmcroft Elementary, and Desert Mesa Elementary. So those lunches are continuing to be available. Let me see. I got a note here I need to forward to, my office is already working. I don't know why they come in so early. There, I sent it. We'll talk about veterans for a minute. My son-in-law is a veteran. 41 years old, and he's dying of ALS. He cannot walk at this point. He's been deteriorating before our eyes. It's been horrific. ALS is very prominent in military for some reason. They don't know why. But the chances of having ALS being a military veteran is a much, much higher risk. Don't know. But it's terrible. And, he's a proud Marine, proud to have been a Marine and all that. And now he needs to be picked up and put in a wheelchair. And they don't understand why. The Marines, though, I guess, or the military or DOD has recognized that. And they do take, as much burden off the family as possible with the care, assistance, and financial assistance to help with the situation. But a terrible deal. But I was reading this morning that the veterans also face a surprising threat of cancer. Veterans with cancer face a higher risk of suicide attempts. Yeah, that's a new research done at Oregon Health and Science University. Researchers analyzed Veterans Health Administration for more than 292 veterans with cancer from 2014 to 2013. Suicidal self-directed violence, SSDV. I didn't know they had an acronym for that. Including both non-fatal and fatal. They have a suicide attempt of 203 per 100,000, which is significantly higher than general population. Overwhelmed. And I don't know why that is. Overwhelming distress tied to disease diagnosis, treatment, and long-term effects puts patients at risk well into survivorship. Active treatment is even after it's over, the active treatment. The risk of highest is the first 6 months of diagnosis, but persists for up to 5 years. Veterans with severe frailty, chronic mental illness, advanced cancer, and high pain scores. High rates of non-fatal attempts were recorded from most veterans under the age of 45. Females and veterans with central nervous system cancers or thyroid cancer. Prescription medications were not the most common method of the non-fatal suicide attempts. while firearms are the most common in fatal attempts. Study was strictly observational. Results show an association, but don't provide that cancer directly causes suicidal behavior. There's the author, Donald R. Sullivan. He's the associate professor of medicine at the Oregon School. It's a concerning public health crisis that disproportionately affects Americans, servicemen, and servicewomen. We hope to raise awareness and inform the development of approaches to better support veterans and mitigate the impact of cancer diagnosis on their well-being. We need to combine efforts on research, outreach, and care. And he added that cancer diagnosis is often a profound shock. I would think so. Even cancers with good survival rates can trigger immediate fear of death. That initial moment, combined with pain, treatment side effects, anxiety, depression, can be incredibly destabilizing. Jim Wally is CEO of Mission Roll Call, a nonprofit veteran advocacy group. The study shows that more investigation and action is needed to medicate the higher percentage of veterans diagnosed with cancer committing suicide. He was not involved in that study, but understanding the chain of events and upstream factors is vital, as is sharing the study results and recommendations with veteran support organizations involved in these efforts around the nation. They might be aware. I mean, I think they are. The number of veteran suicides is 425% higher than the number of combat deaths since 9/11. That's significant. Suicides are higher than combat deaths by 425%. Despite good intentions, the decline in the number of suicides is not dropping enough to end this scourge. We need to combine efforts in research, outreach, and care, and it's a national crisis that needs a national level task force. Oh, hopefully they can figure something out. Those numbers are disturbing. Let me see. Since I'm talking about healthcare, I wanted to bring this one up. This is not a surprise. About prayer, and there was a health study on the effects of prayer. Now, I was on the hospital board for 9 years, and I just really enjoyable and learned a lot at the hospital and how it operates and what goes on. The hospital has, alternative type things available within the hospital. Everything from healing touch and prayer and all those kind of things that you can have. They do embrace whatever the patient pretty much wants along those lines. And I think everybody recognizes that people that pray, I've always heard it say that it significantly helps in recoveries from hospital cares, better results. Well, they actually did a study. Adult patients experienced significant relief from pain and anxiety after just 5 minutes of in-person prayer. It's found, and it's a randomized controlled trial. The University of Maryland School of Medicine, Department of Family and Communication Medicine compared the effects of direct prayer to the effects of listening to music. So it was really a setup test situation. And they revealed that prayer provided greater and more substantial relief for both symptoms. Jesse Bradley, he's a pastor of Grace Community Church in Washington, said prayer is powerful and beneficial in many ways. Prayer, the most used form of complementary medicine in the United States, relied on by 43% of Americans. So the researchers focused on a practice known as proximal intercessory prayer, PIP, defined as in-person, face-to-face prayer directed towards another individual's well-being. So the research team recruited 180 adult patients from a family medicine waiting room. All participants had previously reported experience moderate to severe pain, anxiety, or both. Well, after the standard medical appointments, the patients were randomly assigned to one of two groups: a prayer group which participants receive 5 minutes of in-person Christian prayer delivered by a trained volunteer. So they would actually come in and pray for you. And the music group, they were spent 5 minutes listening to music. There's just 5 minutes. Well, they tracked the changes in the participants' self-reported pain and anxiety levels at multiple intervals. Immediately after the 5-minute session, and then 2 weeks and 6 weeks. Catherine Jacobson's a medical doctor, assistant professor of family and community medicine at the University of Maryland School of Medicine. She said it was very well received. 97% of participants said they were neutral or supportive when asked about having this kind of prayer available as part of their medical visits. And I guess I'm surprised about that. 97% is a high number to say neutral or supportive, because there are those activists out there that I guess maybe they're only 3%, at least in that group. The study was published in the Annals of Family Medicine, not in a religious book. It was in the Family Medicine book. Revealed that while patients in both groups showed improvements, those in the prayer group reported substantially greater relief. Bradley, who's not involved in the study, described the transformative power of prayer through healing and comfort, and shared that he himself once went through a long, painful recovery process. Now, he's not involved. He says, daily prayer was essential in my healing journey. For pain reduction, the individuals who received in-person prayer experienced greater drops in pain intensity immediately following the session. This superior level of relief remained evident during the 2-week follow-up compared to the music group. The researchers found for anxiety reduction, the benefits of prayer were even longer lasting. The prayer recipients reported significantly greater reduction in anxiety immediately after the session, and these effects remains statistically sufficient at both the 2-week and 6-week checkpoints. We expected that patients who expected prayer to work would benefit more, but that wasn't what we found. Religious affiliation, religious intensity, and expectancy of healing did not predict who improved. So they didn't select and separate people on religious convictions. That was all random. Benefits appeared across a wide range of patients, including those not of the Christian faith and those who did not expect the intervention to help them. The limitations that the researchers acknowledged, they could not prove that prayer itself caused the improvements, which is true. You can't prove it. They also noted the patients receiving prayer had human contact. So maybe a holding of hands or touching of some kind. And you see that quite often. People will put a hand on a shoulder or hold hands or something when they pray for somebody. The music control group did not have any touching involved. No contact. Eye contact and gentle laying on hands from the prayer volunteers may have helped. An impact of that type of contact is known to reduce pain. Now we're talking about 5 minutes, and it lasting for 6 months is how long? 2 weeks, 6 weeks, and 6 months. The authors hope to conduct future studies with a control group that receives interpersonal contact but no prayer. Jacobson. For physicians and health systems, the study supports continuing to ask patients about spiritual care preference as part of the whole person care, and considering whether trained Christian volunteers, prayer practitioners, could be integrated into outpatient settings for interested patients. PIP could serve as a low-cost, non-pharmaceutical, and effective complement to standard medical care. Rather than placing traditional treatment, the authors indicate that this type of brief, faith-based intervention could be integrated into primary care settings to help manage pain and anxiety. And I know things like that are available at the hospital. I recently went through a few procedures. I had a pacemaker put in, and then I had an ablation. Pacemaker, I wasn't unconscious for that, but I don't remember it. I was given some drugs to relax me, and then relaxed me so much I didn't remember it much. Then I was put under for the ablation, and woke up in the room, the recovery room. But I was never offered. I mean, nobody ever asked me if I would like someone to come in for prayer. I mean, I know it's available at the hospital, but I don't know how it's administered, or if somebody asks for it, if they arrange it ahead of time, or if there's people on call in the hospital. I have no idea. And I know that there's people there, especially when it comes to telling somebody you have some really bad news, like a fatal disease or something, a cancer or something like that. There's counselors that are trained, religious trained, and I've interviewed them before, grief counseling, stuff like that. And they have to go through counseling themselves because they handle so much grief that gets to be pretty weighty stuff. So they counsel each other at the same time. They pray for each other and do all that. But it is available at the hospital. I don't know that it's something that's they ask you if you need something to drink. They ask you if you'd like something to eat. Those things are all part of the routine. I do not think they include the routine of something like that, maybe, unless it's something catastrophic, something that's, and maybe you need to worry about it then. Now, that would give you anxiety to ask if you want a pastor. Now I didn't have anxiety, but I am now. There's got to be some bad news coming. Maybe. But I don't think it's a surprise. That study's not a surprise. I think it's been, I don't know, not documented so much, but maybe documented that people's what they believed, but it wasn't. It's nice to have it as a scientific study where they have control groups and all that. Although the control group did get music. Maybe it was something irritating. I don't know, but they did get music. Didn't say what kind of music, or if the music was something that it appreciated. It might have been country music and they don't like it or something. It didn't say any of that. For you though, for you that smoke, for you that are left, a lot of my listeners would be older, so most of them have quit. I think a research team at the University of China analyzed data from more than 32,000 adults over a 25-year period, found that former smokers had a lower risk of dementia compared to people who continued smoking. Now, I know we often read or we look at Surgeon General or something and cancer risk and the amount of emphysema, breathing problems, cancer risk, obviously much higher. People know it. Even the ones that smoke know it. But I didn't know dementia, and was thrown in there, but apparently it is. During the study period, researchers documented 5,868 cases of dementia. Participants who quit smoking during the study had a significantly lower risk of developing dementia than current smokers. The risk was similar to people who had quit smoking before the study began and those who never smoked, which I guess is good news if you're a smoker and worried about dementia and think you want to quit. I know some smokers who to continue to smoke into advanced aging. And they say, well, it's too late for me. Any damage is already done, so it won't matter. Well, it does, apparently. They found that dementia risk continues to decline the longer a person remains smoke-free. That never smokers, after about 7 years, that's where it approaches. Like 7 years after you quit, you'll have the same risk as somebody that never smoked in the first place, assuming you don't already pick it up. And it appeared to be strongest among people who gain little or no weight after quitting. So when you quit smoking, don't pick up the donuts. It suggested that quit smoking may support long-term brain health. It highlighted what happens after quitting, of course. A researcher, Hugh Chin, said in that statement that the findings suggest that quit smoking may support long-term brain health and all that. A Harvard-trained physician, medical chief, Zaid Fudul, um, said the key takeaway is that brain appears to benefit from smoking cessation at virtually any stage. Smoking contributes to chronic inflammation, oxidative stress, damage to blood vessels that supply the brain, all of which are associated with cognitive decline and dementia risk. Um, but it's never too late. It is rarely too late to quit. While earlier sensation offers the greatest benefit, the body and brain begin recovering soon after smoking stops. Improvements in circulation, reduced inflammation, and better cardiovascular health can help preserve cognitive function later in life. Every year without tobacco is a step towards lowering future dementia risk and improving overall health. So it's not too late to tell your best friends and friends, associates, spouses, anybody that it's never too late. Don't buy into that. It's too late. It's not easy to quit. I mean, addictive is real, and you don't want them to start eating boxes of Twinkies instead of cartons of cigarettes. So that's good. All right, let's see if I get a little bit of the news, and I want to talk a little bit about Iran. See if I've got anything out here on that. I don't even know if I printed anything up this morning. Okay, I did a little bit. It's been I don't know. You can't keep track of it because we don't know what's going on day to day, every day, mostly. Or maybe we do, but it's a disappointment. I keep getting more and more calls of distress, people that are tired of the extensions of the ceasefire. It's enough already. That Trump should just let him have it. Enough. I mean, I hear it a lot from pro-Trump people and people that aren't pro-Trump and all that. But it said that this thing is just becoming irritating. I understand. I do understand, and I don't claim to understand everything that's going on with Trump as to why this is working. I trust him to be better at it than I am. I do trust him to be better at it than I am. So we keep hearing that the talks are going very well. I mean, from Trump, really, really good. We're not there yet. And I think this last weekend we heard that a deal was made with with Iran, that felt very confident that there was going to be a ceasefire, or straits would be opened, and we're going to go about business as usual. We wrapped up some of the other details, and it seemed like Trump pulled the plug on that and said, no, it's not enough. So, and we keep hearing that Iran really wants to make a deal, but of course that's the rhetoric, and I guess that's an old rhetoric from Iran. Let me see. This is here's what Trump and Sandy just sent me this. Trump put this out on social media just now. He says, and somebody always says Iran really wants to make a deal, and he says that quite a bit, but then it never comes. And it will be a good one for the USA and those that are with us, but don't. The Democrats and the various seemingly unpatriotic Republicans understand that it is much tougher for me to properly do my job and negotiate when political hacks keep negatively chirping at levels never seen before, over and over again, that I should move faster or move slower or go to war or not go to war or whatever. Just sit back and relax. It will all work out well in the end. It always does. President DJT. So yeah, he's got everybody guessing on one side of another on what he should do. He seems confident that he's doing the right thing, and he's out frustrating the frustrators, I think. I mean, Iran is famous for making you so frustrated you sign on to a bad deal just to get it over with. I think Trump's frustrating them, to tell you the truth. I know that internal strife in Iran is terrible. I know that the money is terrible, that they're not getting the money there. They can't pay troops. I mean, that's been documented, that troops are complaining about eating, food, paying rent. the normal things. They're not getting paid. And Trump just keeps the boot on the neck. He just keeps it on until he gets what he wants. And Iran makes all these promises that we're going to go back. We really want to negotiate. And then they don't negotiate what they know is important. That's giving up the nuclear opportunities, the nuclear material, opening the strait with no conditions, no tolls, because it is an international, waters. It is. It's not a canal. They didn't make it. It's not a canal. It exists in nature, international waters. And they want to toll it like they do the Panama Canal or the Suez Canal, which of course are man-made structures that need to operate and use tugboats and a lot of overhead maintenance and everything. And amazingly, Iran wants to charge much more than either one of those canals, even though all they have to do is wave to them as they go by. I mean, there's no maintenance in it, an international waterway. It just kind of takes care of itself. Well, and we keep thinking that the strike is imminent, then it doesn't happen. And I don't think Iran cares about it. They don't care about the strike. They don't care about their people as much as we do. And they think they're going to frustrate Trump. And Trump keeps stating, because people will comment to him and the reporters will comment to him that, look, you've got the midterms coming up, the elections coming up. You have to do something. He says he's under no pressure to act at all. There is no pressure. It takes whatever time it takes. I mean, I think there's pressure, but he doesn't show it if there is. He doesn't. He says he's going to do the right thing, get the right deal, and not let this thing go out another 47 years. And I think it's well noted that Iran, or the guard there, not the citizens so much, but the Revolutionary Guard, their goal is to survive. That's it. That's a low bar, just to survive. Whether they get their nuclear capabilities knocked out, they get devastation, the amount of hardware that they produced over the last decades gets destroyed. They want to survive so they can rebuild, keep the hate going and keep the treachery going and staying the bully that they are for the entire Middle East there. That's the goal. Low bar. And we have people in this country call themselves patriots and say, yeah, they're winning. The Iran's winning because they're not destroyed. It's not a military fight. It's a, fight for a change to get that leadership out of leadership. And they're still in it, although they have a lot of difficulties now, a lot of problems they never had. People willing to rise up and protest in the streets that, you'll get killed for. People taking over some cities, people attacking police officers and stuff. And, it's a little out of control, although we get very little tapes and stuff out. We get some. There are some out there if you want to find them. There's some out there. Well, the president just resigned also. Sandy sent it to me again. I know I've seen this, but Masoud Pezeshkian submitted an official letter of resignation to the office of the Supreme Leader. That came out yesterday, that he resigned. So who's getting frustrated? I mean, Trump hasn't resigned. But it would be tough to be in Iran right now and be in charge. Many of those in charge have already met a fate of death. Death is, they're a target from Israel or from the United States or from the rioters inside the city. The rioters don't have a lot of armament, a lot of organization, but they're becoming more and more of an issue. Because they have taken over police departments. They have burned government buildings. They have taken out some of the defensive stuff themselves. It doesn't get a lot of press, but it's going on out there. Well, recently, in this last weekend, there's been some military attacks. Iran has sent a ballistic missile into Kuwait towards a military Air Force base, United States Air Force base. And CENTCOM, which is U.S. Central Command, said, they did a press release that they conducted a self-defense strike on Iranian radar and command and control strikes for drones in Garuk, Iran, and Keshma Island this weekend, which they did. The measured and deliberate strikes occurred on Saturday and Sunday in response to aggressive Iranian actions that included the shoot down of an MS drone, MQ-1 drone. That's a couple $1 million drone right there. And that drone was operating over international waters. U.S. fighter craft swiftly responded by eliminating Iran air defenses, a ground control station, and 2 one-way attack drones that pose clear threats to ships transiting regional waters. I had heard that it was they were targeting a U.S. ship, but it doesn't. This article doesn't support that. It just says ships. No American service members were harmed. CENTCOM will continue to protect U.S. assets and interests in response to unwarranted Iranian aggression during the ongoing ceasefire. And the Associated Press reported the Kuwait air defenses opened fire on Monday to intercept drone and missile attacks. It was all around the same time. And Iran's Parliamentary Revolutionary Guard said it responded to an American attack without saying where, likely referring to the attack on Kuwait. The Guard, via a statement reported by the state-run news agency, indicated the American targeted a telecommunications tower. And President Trump writes that he urged. They said the issue will ultimately turn out well. Iran really wants to make a deal, and it's be good for the USA and those are with us. But don't the Democrats and various seemingly unpatriotic, and he wrote Democrats, seemingly unpatriotic Republicans, understand that it is much tougher for me to properly do my job and negotiate when political hacks keep negatively chirping at levels never seen before, over and over again. And then it should be move faster or move slower, go to war, not go to war, whatever. Just sit back and relax. It will all work out in the end. It always does. The blockade's continuing in Iran. I read something this weekend. I didn't research it much, but Iran was claiming they let 26 vessels through the strait. I don't know how you do that if the U.S. has a blockade. Somebody's not telling us the truth. Either the U.S. is inept and doesn't notice 26 tankers coming through, or Iran is making stuff up. I don't know. I suspect that our military is not going to miss 26 ships coming through the strait. It's not that big. And something that Trump and the military and everything keep putting out is that this is all defensive stuff. This is all Sandy says she wishes I could play the above video. Actually, because I'm not on the air, I might do that for you, Sandy. Let me see how long it is. Comes from Citizen Free Press. I don't know what it is. Well, this isn't a video. Okay. U.S. military hits new targets inside Iranian territory. Minute 57, Citizens Free Press. Okay. I'll play it. Minute 57. And let me see.
Yeah, hey guys, good morning. CENTCOM says U.S. forces conducted strikes against multiple Iranian targets over the weekend. The strikes hit Iranian radar systems and command and control centers for drones in Guruk, Iran, along the coast and on Keshem Island. CENTCOM described the action as defensive in nature to prevent Iran from attacking international shipping lanes and after Iran shot down a $4 million U.S. drone. The Iranians responded by targeting Kuwait with drones and missiles early this morning. Overnight, President Trump posted to Truth Social saying, in part, Iran really wants to make a deal, and it will be a good one for the USA and those that are with us. Iran's parliament speaker and top negotiator, Mohammad Khalibaf, said this on Sunday about the ongoing talks.
What matters to us are the tangible achievements we must obtain in order to undertake our own commitments in return. And until we are certain that we have secured the rights of the Iranian nation, we will not approve any agreement.
We're also tracking developments in the conflict between Israel and Iran's largest proxy, Hezbollah. Over the weekend, Hezbollah launched more than 50 rockets into northern Israel as Israeli ground forces pushed deeper into southern Lebanon. This morning, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ordered the IDF to strike the Lebanese capital of Beirut, specifically the Dakhil neighborhood, a Hezbollah stronghold.
I instructed the IDF to expand the maneuver in Lebanon. Our forces have crossed the Litani. They have seized dominant terrain. They captured the Beaufort Ridge, and now my instruction is to deepen and expand our hold in places that were under Hezbollah control.
Iranian officials.
All right, that's pretty much, well, we covered most of that except for the Hezbollah stuff. And Iran's not letting that Hezbollah stuff continue on. They're striking now because I would imagine because Iran's already weak. Iran's is not getting the funding that they used to get from Iran. It's not giving the funding to Hezbollah. They can't. I mean, they're out of funds themselves. So why Hezbollah's weak, not getting the shipments of replenishment of weapons and money over for the. They're striking hot, and I think Lebanon wants them gone. So it might be the right time to respond. So let me see. And I got a response on my YouTube discussing me riding a bicycle and all that. It says only a sissy wears a helmet and gloves. Okay. Message got. I still wear helmet and gloves. I still got it. I still wear it. I don't care. Let me see. Let's talk about Karen Bass for a minute. Terrible mayor in L.A. All during the fires, the missteps and all that, but she doesn't get panned on most media channels like she should, of being just a horrific lady, horrific for the state, horrific for LA. Crime has increased crazy. Fires have increased crazy. Building doesn't happen under Karen's watch. The lies about water being available, the reservoirs running dry, the fire trucks not being up to par, many of them in disrepair. Fire chief complaining that she doesn't have the money to keep the to keep the fire department fully staffed and operational, gets fired. And Bass doesn't get near the heat, except from conservative type broadcasts that you might see, but no, the local news doesn't condemn her for it because she's a Democrat. That's all I can figure. Well, Spencer Pratt's hit the scene. Now, Spencer Pratt is a long shot at best under anybody's guess. He's long shot. Nobody's predicting, he's a shoo-in to win. Someone started to say, boy, he looks good enough he's got a chance, maybe. It's the best I've heard. But he is growing. He's most likely going to come in first or second in the runoff. And that's the runoff, and it's not a runoff to get the Democrat or the Republican on the ticket. It's a runoff period. They have a jungle primary. Jungle. That means everybody that's in the race is on the same primary ticket together. And they take the top two, whether they're both Democrats or both Republicans, doesn't matter, top two. Now, obviously, California did that to themselves, knowing that they're so heavily Democrat, it's going to shut out any chance of a Republican getting in there. It would shut the Republicans out mostly. Well, it's not working out right now. I mean, Democrats are doing such a poor job, and now the Republicans have a chance. At least that's the way I see it. And in L.A., Democrats outnumber Republicans a full 2-1. It's just amazing. It's just a Democrat haven. And And that's why they're in such terrible straits, obviously. Well, recent polling shown that the top three candidates, nobody's going to get 50%. If you get 50% in the primary, you're an automatic in. And normally an incumbent like Bass would just get 50% and it would be over. It would, just early on in the primary, which is really a jungle primary is so, geared towards supporting the incumbent. It's crazy. Incumbent only has to get 50%, and any opposition, there's going to be multiple of them are going to cancel each other out, but not this time. Bass is terrible enough that at least half the voters have recognized it and said, and she's probably not going to get 50%. She'll probably be the highest, believe it or not. She'll probably be the highest on the vote getting for the primary. Now, Bass is still backed by high-profile Democrats, including former Vice President Kamala Harris, and the governor, Gavin Newsom. According to both of them, she's just doing a great job, bang-up job. And she's out there now stealing some of the campaign slogans from her biggest rival, which is now Spencer Pratt, a Republican. Isn't that amazing? Her biggest opposition is a Republican. Who would have thought that? That's in California. And so she's serving tacos wearing an apron with a slogan on it: common sense and carne asada. Of course, common sense is something Spencer Pratt has framed on his whole campaign about, a lot of this stuff is pretty easy. A lot of it's pretty common sense on how you handle things, and that's what's been lacking. So now Bass is supporting common sense. So see that Spencer Pratt's already had an effect on the Democrats. They're now at least given rhetoric that they support common sense. Bass took aim at him, says, "You failed as a reality TV star who wants to be famous." Yeah, well, you failed as a mayor that wants to continue being one, I guess. And then she appeared to reference Donald Trump. She says, "We know what it means if you put somebody who is on reality TV star in a seat of power." Well, then we should always hire reality TV stars because Trump seems to be doing a commanding job. Spats, Pratt, for his time, he spent some time criticizing Nithya Raman. Is it Raman? Raman, who is a council member currently, and she's running in around the third. She's the third one that's running in the primary election. Doesn't get as much attention as Pratt or Bass, but she's actually really close. Those between Pratt and Raman, they're pretty close in the run. She's considering just criticizing her recent campaign advertisements. In a video posted to Instagram, Raman pointed to recent poll and urged supporters to vote. After millions of dollars spending against us, we are still here. We are still competitive. I guess that's her big thing. I'm still competitive. Pratt's just done a masterful job of marketing. Just real simple stuff. If you haven't seen any of his AI videos, you owe it to yourself to take a look. They're not only very informative, very spot on, they're just absolutely hilarious. And he continues to criticize Bass over homelessness, drug addiction, and crime. And Bass passes out needles to drug addicts, for their safety, supports criminals. Spends a ton of money on homelessness. I don't know how much per person, but it's somewhere in the $100,000 mark per person they get spent on homeless. And it keeps getting worse. The more they spend, it keeps getting worse. Of course, I think most of the money spent goes towards overhead, people that are designed or are on the payroll to run the homeless program. That's where the money's spent. They get all the money on that. I don't think the homeless people get that much of it, they get some meals, which doesn't help them get out of their situation. They may get a roof over their head occasionally, which does not help them get out of their situation. The whole thing is, just geared to placate and to kick the can down the road, keep that homelessness going. I can tell you in Yuma, we have some great programs on people that are in terrible shape. I mean, a lot of it is not government. A lot of it is like the mission, which helps people get back on their feet. Get an education, whatever it is, get dry out from drugs, alcohol, that kind of stuff. They give temporary shelter. They give training. And I guarantee you, they do not spend $100,000 per person. They don't. And their money, most of it is coming from good citizens of Yuma and donations and things out of Yuma that help support that organization. We also have housing projects in Yuma County that I think just do a fantastic job. But if you're down on your luck, you're not doing well, you can get a place to live, an apartment building to live at some of these housing projects, and they're clean and nicely kept, and they're safe. They look safe. So one in Somerton, particularly, that I've toured quite a bit, but there's a price to pay when you get in. If you don't have the money, the price is education, is counseling, GED, understanding how to do a resume and apply for jobs, working with White Pick, all those things to get people back. And then when you do go back to work and you start making money, you have to pay a portion of your rent. And then when you get to the point where you can afford rent, they ask you to find another apartment because you can afford rent and to leave the place open for somebody else that needs the help. And that's the way those programs should work, is to get people back on their feet, not support them in where they are. Something from a listener: didn't Israel almost guarantee that the Iranians would rise up and overthrow the government? Question mark. Bad intelligence, or just plain lying to the United States? I don't know if it all comes out of Israel. I don't know. I listened to a news program, Tosi TV, and he's an Iranian citizen, lives in England right now, that has a lot of contacts in Iran, that shows a lot of footage of what's going on when he can get it. He still has friends that have SpaceX and stuff like that in there that show it. I don't know if Iranian or Israel has stated. I would imagine their intelligence is better than ours, and they. I mean, the Israelis' intelligence is probably better than ours on the ground. They're noted for that. And a chance of, and I'm sure Trump's been informed on all of it, but are the Iranian population rising up? Yeah. Will they be successful? I don't think anyone's guaranteed it. Although I can't help but think that it's part of Trump's pausing all the time, is he sees opportunity there that they may take care of the job for us all, and we'll be better off for it. But you'd have to ask Trump that. I don't think he'll answer it at this point. Moving out of Hollywood seems to be a normal thing, LA area for celebrities and all. A lot of tech people, celebrities, wealthy people, business people have been moving out of California now for quite a while, to the point where they can't help but just feel the huge pain, because when you have a billionaire leave the state, even though they scream you're not paying your fair share, you can pay more. The billionaires in that state, like many of them, pay the huge percentage of all the taxes collected. The billionaires as a group, they do. Even though the people whine and shout that you don't pay enough. That's why they leave, by the way, because they realize that the legislation's coming to punish them for being successful. We want your money. As if money is limited, like money's a finite deal. Well, it's not. Wealth is created, And the billionaires created wealth. And now, the greedy politicians want to take it all rather than asking the population to go to work. They want to provide everything to the population, and they're going to take it from you by force. They're going to take it from you. That's what governments do. They take it. So billionaires are moving to states that don't have that same philosophy. The billionaires are moving to states that embrace billionaires. Like, come here and make as much money as you want. Because they realize that every dollar they make, more dollars flow into the economy. Because billionaires employ thousands of people, some if they have businesses. They spend a ton of money. They buy like crazy all over the place. Well, that's drying up in California. One of the first ones to ditch it was Kurt Russell. I guess I knew that. Kurt Russell, who married Goldie Hawn. He's 75 years old now. He lives in Colorado. And he says it allows him to do the things that he wants to do on a day-to-day basis. He says, what I want to look at, what I want to be part of, all the things that Colorado has to offer. I wanted to eventually get into the ranching life. When Goldie and I got together, a couple years later, we both built a ranch here together where our family has grown up. That was 40 years ago. So Kurt Russell left Hollywood 40 years ago. He said, I wasn't escaping. I was just living where I live. I was fortunate that it really didn't make any difference. And I think, according to his career, because he was warned that leaving Hollywood would you'd pay a price, which he hasn't. He's been prolific in movies. He says, but when I did, nobody else was doing that. I had many people tell me, well, that's goodbye. That's it. I said, well, we'll see. He says, I don't dislike LA. It's just not my preference in terms of how I want to live my life. You've got to understand something about the area of Old Snowmass. Everybody who lives there, they live there because they want to. I can't say that about LA. Life in Colorado is for his children is very different from living in the city. They grew up with a good dose of what nature can offer. I bet they weren't riding e-bikes in the streets, living in Snowmass. There are difficulties to it, but there are also rewards to it. I'm just more comfortable there. Quiet country life is how he grew up in Maine. I suppose once you're exposed to that kind of thing, it's always home. Everything we did there in terms of what we built and what we have in terms of being able to offer in life to our children, I'm really, really happy we were able to do that. Now, Goldie Hawn has 2 children, Oliver and Kate Hudson, from her previous marriage to Bill Hudson. Russell has a son, Boston, from his marriage to Susan Hubley. And they have one biological son together, Wyatt. Russell says, what I enjoy most is that Hawn, his wife, Goldie, really likes it in Colorado. Wyatt and Meredith and their 2 boys, they live in Colorado now. So we like to spend as much time with them as we can. Hawn's 80 years. I didn't know Goldie Hawn is 80 years old. The Sock It To Me girl. I don't know if you know that. What was Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In? So I think where she made her debut in a bikini. That's what she was noted for. Hawn may have revealed more into why the couple chooses the mountains over the city after admitting their LA home was robbed once. What if we couldn't live in LA? What if we would live, we both decided, I think it's Palm Desert. It's so safe. And that was Hawn talking out loud about what they were discussing at the time. He says, and then let's talk off camera with Kelly Ripa. It's just because LA's terrible. I mean, we were robbed once. Russell was gone. Her and Russell were gone for 2 hours, 20 minutes, returning home, similarly to a normal situation. We came back, went in the house. I went up the stairs and I walked into my closet. I just lost it. They had broken in from the balcony to our bedroom, our closets. They completely knocked down my door, which is a safe door. So they're very, very sophisticated. And they got a lot of my goodies. You know what I mean? And then Hawn was alone with her dog when she heard startling noise in the other room. I heard a big thump upstairs, and I was alone. Kirk wasn't there, and I went, "What the hell was that?" Well, it sounded like a sonic boom. Did someone just did someone jump somewhere? As it turned out, the next day we discovered that they were trying to get into my bedroom while I was still in the house. So I guess that was enough to break up the happy "let's live in LA" story. Oh, and my listener reminds me they're not married. That's true, they're not. I did say married. They're not married. They've been living together for 40 years. Thank you. That is correct. They've been living together for 40 years. Yeah, so I need that occasionally. So keep correcting me, everyone. Text me real quick. I think Edward has been out of town doing what I don't know. I got a message from somebody in his office that he was on some idiotic adventure. I don't know. I'm looking forward to finding out what that is. Some idiotic adventure. I have no idea what he's been doing. With Edward, it could have been anything in this world or even outside those boundaries. Edward could be outside those boundaries. Speaking of out of bounds, Jill Biden. Just amazing, terrible lady from what I see. Her supporting her husband, if that's what you call it, supporting her husband through 4 years as the president, propping him up as if everything's okay. I think most people find distasteful and just elder abuse. I mean, she just keeps jumping down to his side saying, it's okay, brushing him off. There's nothing going on here. And I remember after the debate that she now has changed her tune on and said that she was afraid he had a stroke, which we'll talk about. But, right after that debate, she just runs on stage. "Oh, honey, you were so wonderful. You answered every question," like some child. You answered every question? As if that was this big surprise. She acted very surprised, like you answered every question. You're surprised. He did horrible. I think universally everyone understood it, but most of the left kept saying, he did great. He did great. Looking right in the camera. Morning Joe said it's the best Biden ever. And attack those that would say anything otherwise. It's just amazing that we could watch that on TV. Like, don't believe your lying eyes. He's fine. Now Jill comes out and says that I was really scared. I thought he was having a stroke. So he went to the Waffle House to push his campaign. That's what you normally do when you get a stroke. Go to the Waffle House. No, it's not. But that's the story she's sticking to right now. Well, one of her former spokesman, Michael LaRosa, accused her of trying to change the tape. That she revealed in a recent interview that she feared President Biden was having a stroke. And LaRosa said they're trying to change the tape in people's minds about who she is. That's why she's sort of changing her tune a little bit about her reaction in real time. She wants to say, oh, no, my reaction was just as concerning and was just as severe as everyone at home. I was shocked. Now, Jill was the face and the voice of the initial reaction for the country, and she was. She jumped on stage. And that is, she had reacted at the time with sentiments she later shared with CBS. It would have been a more human response. If you did such a great job, you answered every question, you knew all the facts. Which, that's what she said. He bumbled his way through. It was embarrassing. Trump looked perplexed and at times answered like, I have no idea what he just said, and I don't think he does either. That got ignored by the commentators and the press. Commentators should have halted it and asked for, a doctor to come in and check him out. Well, Jill was just on an interview, which I think most everyone knows. She says, I don't know what happened. I mean, as I watched it, I thought, oh my God, he's having a stroke. And it scared me to death. I mean, that's her current story. Now, few years later. That's her current story. After she said just the opposite and acted just the opposite. Alex Thompson, he's the Axios reporters, said that Biden aides told Jake Tapper and me that they had seen him act that way before and after. Those moments became more difficult to predict and conceal. And Thompson was referring to comments gathered during the writing of the original Sin, the book that covered Biden's time in office. So everyone was wide aware, well aware of those of all those actions, and well aware that the president was, President Biden was losing control, that he was not himself. And now Jill's book, which is due out, I guess, talks about just the opposite, that she was concerned, thinking she was having a stroke. I don't know what else is in the book. I'm not going to buy it. I'm going to expect others to read it and let us know. I don't want to purchase that book. But somebody will. Somebody will. Burger King is bringing back a favorite. Now, if I remember right, Burger King, American company, see, they have 19,000 restaurants right now, 120 countries and U.S. territories. Most of them are owned by independent franchisees, so big business, big organization. If I remember right, a few years ago, they changed their headquarters from the United States to a Canadian company. Let me see. I'll type that in. Let me see. The Burger King headquarters. It's taking a little longer. Built another data center. My AI is taking too long. It's in Miami, Florida. Well, my understanding is they moved. All right. I understood. They moved to Canada for tax reasons. Yes, Burger King parent company Restaurant Brands. Oh, Restaurant Brands International, which is their headquarters, Toronto, Canada. But the Burger King specific fast food headquarters is in Miami, Florida. The split occurred in 2014, so it's been a while. Burger King merged with the Canadian coffee and donut chain. And my understanding, they cut their taxes like in half or something to do that, to get that thing to Canada. I didn't realize it'd been that long ago. I thought it was less than a decade, but obviously not. Obviously not. But anyway, they're bringing back a specialty item that people really like called the Crown Nuggets. I don't remember them, maybe, but it's the first time in 15 years. They call it nostalgic. It's crown shaped chicken nugget. So they took the chicken nugget and they shape it into a crown. Instead of a chicken nugget, it looks like a crown. Well, people are just excited about it. It's the first time it's appeared on menus since 2011. So it's a marketing gimmick, but it's partnered with Crayola, the brand known for inspiring creativity and imagination to generations of families. We've created a King Jr. meal experience that brings more fun and interaction to mealtime for guests of all ages. So starting June 9th, we're already into June, so we're talking like 8 days. The limited time kids meal will include co-branded 4-pack of crayons, Crayola crayons, a colorable crown, and a meal bag. Nuggets will be available as an 8-piece order And as part of Burger King's $3.99 King Jr. meal, which comes with a side and a drink. So they're partnering with Crayola. Other people are writing, I've missed them so much. I miss the chicken nuggets. They've been around since 1954. The ad campaign's coming out. We fired the king and crowned you. I guess you get a crayons and a crown, and you can color your own crown. So that's how they're changing it. I read something the other day about Fuddruckers. Fuddruckers was a up and coming burger joint, kind of different, kind of a make your own burger type thing. It was a buffet style. You bought the burger, the bun, the patty, and you went over to the buffet table, and whether you wanted pickles, lettuce, tomatoes, special sauce, cheese, and all that stuff, you put that all on yourself. And they just boomed. They went crazy. They sold for millions of dollars to another company, and then they just started hitting hard times. They were going to Chapter 11, got bought out for $19 million. I think there's 44 of them left, and they're on life support because they never changed. Burger King, if nothing else, is changing. I think this is a change. This is something. McDonald's does it regularly. Things change all the time. You go into McDonald's, they didn't offer near the stuff they used to offer now. Used to be more like In-N-Out Burger. In-N-Out Burger, they have like just a few things on the items, and that's it. It seems to work very well for In-N-Out Burger. They are a change compared to other restaurants. And I don't know what In-N-Out Burger is going to look like in 40 years. Are they still going to be exactly the same? Like Fuddruckers never changed? I don't know. In-N-Out, but the article I read said that you have to change. You have to keep up with what the customers want. And In-N-Out Burger seems to be like that. They seem to have lines every day at In-N-Out Burger. There's only ever been one In-N-Out Burger ever closed. That was in LA, and it was due to crime in the Bay Area, California. Yeah, it was in Oakland. It was just getting robbed so much. It was just for the safety of its employees and the safety of the customers. They just didn't feel they could operate there anymore, and they had to close it. That's what those Democratic cities will get you. Yeah, abandoned buildings is what it gets you. I think Walgreens, CVS has moved out a lot of them out of California. They just closed. They just couldn't keep anymore. I mean, with shoplifting and everything else, it was just out of control to the point. And the local politicians don't change. They just keep becoming more progressive and more progressive. They just double down. While they're chasing businesses out of their state, they just keep doubling down. And they're not changing now. They did an autopsy on the 24 election, the Democrats did. And it was really bad news. The pain was self-inflicted, not listening, not changing, not giving the people what they want, deaf to the problems, whether it's immigration or homelessness or drugs in the streets, can't use the parks, high prices, too taxed, all those kind of things, not having messaging from the politicians that mattered, messaging about what the residents wanted and needed, so loyal Democrats that toughed it out were leaving them. So amazingly, they took this autopsy report and screamed that it was wrong, threatening to fire the head of the Democratic Party for even releasing it. And they're not changing a bit. They still want boys in the girls' room. They still don't want voter ID. They still want unlimited immigration. And they'll fight to whatever they got to do, like their life depends on it, to make it all happen and to stop Trump from improving things at all cost. Whatever they got to do. And it's resulted in 3 assassination attempts. I don't think the DNC planned it. But they definitely created an atmosphere, in my opinion, that would make a crazy more likely to carry out some kind of stupid plot like that. And their rhetoric doesn't slow down. Even afterwards, when directly asked about toning down the rhetoric after the assassination attempt, Hakeem Jeffries wouldn't hear anything about it. Nope, we're going to keep going. So they're not going to learn. They're not going to change any more than Fuddruckers changed. They figured out that they got to be progressive, and if anything, more progressive, and they're going to continue to leave voting open to cheating. They're not going to secure the vote at all, and they'll fight Trump to the death to make sure they would shut down the government first, to make sure that the SAVE Act never passes, to make sure, and they'll call it Jim Crow 2.0, which is ridiculous. But they're on a mission. They're on a mission to prove that their constituents don't know what they're talking about. We know what's good for them. It's very Marxist. We know what's good for them, and we'll punish you if you don't go along. And then the Democratic Party just gets more and more aggressive and worse and worse. And I worry about this next election. I worry that the integrity is going to be upheld. That we can get through and make sure that it's legitimate, that we really get the will of the people, that we get one vote for each person, and that person even knows that they're voting. And yes, it's been happening all over the country that people don't know they vote because someone's voting for them. President Donald Trump is warning against obstruction. And obstruction is the $400 million White House ballroom and rooftop drone base. Now, there is a district judge, Richard Leon, that he claims is given into a serial plaintiff in a ridiculous lawsuit, putting U.S. national security at risk. Which this thing is just ridiculous. The president has every right to do this. As it's been done throughout history. But we got one judge that says, nope, it has to go through Congress, which it never has before, but all of a sudden Richard Leon says it does. And Trump says it's a ridiculous lawsuit putting U.S. national security at risk. The drone port at the White House ballroom will be perhaps the most sophisticated anywhere in the world. Now, this drone port that he speaks of wasn't publicized when they first talked about it because it's a part of national security. And they don't like to broadcast it. I mean, sure, there's going to be spies that may figure out a little bit about it, but to sit and talk about it was not part of the initial gamemanship. It's become that now, just trying to keep the program going forward, even though it's not costing the taxpayers anything. And it's ridiculousness that the Trump can't do it. So it's wrong. And it's not even costing taxpayers. He doesn't have to ask for the money. The money's, well, with the exception of the military stuff. I mean, the private investors are not paying for the military equipment. That's where the other money came in, was the upgrade of defense and security and that 6-story bomb shelter, which is all being built at the same time, which, of course, is the best way to do it. While you got the ground already dug up, let's go ahead and do it now. And this drone port will safeguard our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., and into the future. Judge Richard Leon should stop playing games with American security. And Trump is urging Leon to dismiss the lawsuit from a person that he described as a highly litigious woman. He said the judge would be responsible for if an attack hits the White House. If anything happens, he'll be held responsible for the death and destruction caused to our country. Of course, he may be held responsible from the people, but I don't think legally they're going to arrest him on charges of manslaughter or anything, unfortunately. But I don't think Trump's wrong. I think he leaves us open to horrible stuff if he allows that to happen. Trump says he's already created enough problems by allowing top secret information to be released and exposed based on a ridiculous lawsuit started by a highly litigious woman. which is a serial plaintiff who's strolling, in her opinion, will be disturbed by the new desperately needed structure. In any event, a woman who has absolutely no standing. With the event of a highly sophisticated and powerful modern-day weaponry, we can no longer defend Washington, D.C. with rifles and pistols alone. This ridiculous lawsuit must be dismissed immediately. Now, the Justice Department is already pressuring Leon to lift an injunction that has held up parts of the project, arguing in a court filing that a shooting outside a White House checkpoint earlier this month underscores the need for stronger security measures at the executive mansion. Attorney General Todd Blanche, or acting Attorney General, says in light of the recent attacks against President Trump's life, including 2 attempts in less than a month, the injunction entered by the court for the benefit of a strolling woman who filed suit against the East Wing project long before she knew that it was going to be built. This is a woman who is known serial plaintiff throughout Washington, D.C., and who has absolutely no standing, must be immediately vacated. And this suit, which is a complete embarrassment to our country, must be dismissed. This is terrible, tremendously harmful case, United States of America, and it all stands for. All it stands for. Leon ruled last April that Trump lacked the legal authority to build the ballroom without congressional approval. He issued an injunction halting above-ground construction of the planned ballroom. Through an appeal, court quickly put that order on hold, allowing construction to continue until June. Well, now we're in June. The lawsuit was brought by the National Trust for Historic Preservation, a congressionally chartered nonprofit organization. The group has said it would not drop the case, even after Justice Department cited a foiled attack on the White House. Trump previously disclosed that the ballroom project would include rooftop drone base and a 6-story underground military complex with a hospital and research facilities. And he did that during a tour with reporters. And some of that's on YouTube, some of that's out there on the air. You can see it. Well, Trump pointed out on the White House lawn what's under construction. Trump said the ballroom's roof would be built for military use and designed to withstand a direct attack. The entire roof is built for military. They have a massive drone capacity. Not only is it drone proof, if a drone hits it, it bounces off. It won't have any impact. But it's also meant as a drone port that would protect all of Washington. The proposed 90,000 square foot ballroom would dwarf the historic White House complex. They put it in there, dwarf, like it's a terrible thing. There's the original White House is much smaller than the White House office building structures that are on the same property. And no one ever says, well, that structure dwarfs the White House. I guess they don't give it much thought. But the original White House is just a mansion. It's not. It wouldn't have a 90,000 square foot ballroom, but we need one there in that complex. And of course, Trump wants to design it with the same architecture and everything, so that it would match the complex, which I don't know what else anybody would want other than just Trump is building. I think that's it, that Trump derangement syndrome. Trump has argued that the ballroom is necessary to host large events up to 1,000 people in a secure location. The current White House entertainment spaces are too small. The White House has said that the project's security features include titanium fencing, Harding roof, and thick special glass underground facilities. Trump told reporters the roof would be made of impenetrable steel. The fencing was strong enough that a bulldozer cannot knock it over. Now, Leon's not ruled on the Justice Department's latest request to dissolve the injunction and dismiss the case. I don't think he will. I think this is about all ideology, not about common sense, not about what's needed for the security of the United States or Washington, D.C., or our president at large. I think this is just all a Democrat-Republican thing. At the same time, and I don't have a story in front of me, but the Lincoln Center, it's got Trump's name on it now. Donald Trump and, Kennedy, not Lincoln, Kennedy. Donald Trump and John Kennedy Center for Performing Arts and all that stuff, which they put his name on, which, I wasn't one that jumped up and thought that was a great idea, but it's kind of funny at the same time. Well, I didn't realize how bad the thing was, that it was, and a lot of the infrastructure just hasn't been taken care of, and plumbing, the wiring, and a lot of the buildings crumbling on the inside that you don't really see. So Trump and company looked at it and said that needs a major renovation. Needs to be redone. And they need to shut it down so that they can rip it up and take care of it. Well, that's all been blocked by a judge. In fact, the judge said he's got to take his name off of it because it's a monument to John Kennedy, and he's not allowed to change it, not allowed to do those kinds of things. And I kind of understand it is a monument to John Kennedy, but it's also a working, facility that needs some renovation. They don't hesitate to block off Washington Monument for years to redo it. I mean, it was nothing but scaffolding for years to save it because it was deteriorating, as well as many of the others, the monuments. I know the Lincoln's gone through it and all that, and I visited when there's scaffolding and a lot of it's blocked and you can't get into it. Well, they're going to do the same thing to the John Kennedy. It's just a normal part of maintenance, a normal part of operations. When it gets that serious, that you coordinate off and you get it done. Now, no judge has ever blocked any of those in the past, to my knowledge. They said, no, you're not allowed to block the Washington Monument. People have a right to go in there. Or the Statue of Liberty. They've done that when they did that one for years, that you couldn't go in the Statue of Liberty. It was blocked as they redid it and cleaned it up, changed the color. Yeah, they did a little bit as they clean. It's copper, and it tarnished and was green from the tarnishing. And I guess cleaning it and fixing it all up did change it a little bit, but that's just part of being copper. But all that thing is just normal. It's just normal deal all around Washington. Those things get done all the time. And some buildings aren't worth fixing, like the FBI building and all that. It's all solid concrete, poured concrete. They can't just. It's not nothing you're just going to prop up and fix. Plus, it looks terrible anyway. It's just it looks like a communist Cold War building. It's just lacks nothing at all. Unlike many of the monuments and everything, which have a more classic look to them and something worth preserving. Hopefully that one gets tore down. I mean, the FBI building and all that, but some of them, this is just normal maintenance. Yet people are all outraged because it was Trump. It was like, well, how dare you close it down? Where were these people on all these other closures? The Statue of Liberty, the Washington Monument, the Lincoln Memorial. All of them get closed down at some point for major renovations because things start obviously deteriorating and they got to shore it all up. And that means removing it, fixing the foundations and then putting a lot of it right back or replacing some of it in order to secure it for future generations. I guess they don't care about the Lincoln Center as long as it's Trump. Well, apparently on the Lincoln Center, a lot of the materials to repair it have already been ordered. I mean, Trump doesn't screw around. He wants to make deadlines. He wants to make things happen. That stuff's all in transit. So we're going to get all the material to fix it and have a judge say, no, you can't fix it. Just amazing to me. Just amazing that that's the litigiousness is how far it's gone right now. This litigious is for political reasons. And that's what it appears to me. It's all for political reasons because it's, selective. It's selective. It was in recently that the Washington Monument went through it. Nobody put anything out there saying you're not allowed to refurbish the Washington Monument. Nobody put out there you couldn't refurbish these other monuments and stuff and keep them up. And in World War II, nobody said you couldn't gut the White House and do a major renovation after World War II, which they did. The White House was not livable. In fact, there was no insides. There was no rooms inside. Just the facade on the outside was left standing when they ripped the insides completely out rebuilt the foundation, and then rebuilt it from the inside so that rooms again appeared. Yeah, that was all done after World War II. But it's been through a lot. I mean, it had been burned down at one, I mean, not burned down, but burned up on the inside. They kept the facade, rebuilt it. It's been done a few times. A lot of that stuff gets done. And then these East Wing has been greenhouses. It's tore down and made office buildings, and now tore down to make a ballroom. It's just the normal deal. And they act like it's just so outraged that just how dare Trump? He has no right. Just every president does except him. And he actually is the most creative and getting private business and other people in there to do those things. It's just amazing what he's able to do. And they hate him for it. They hate him for it, unfortunately. And it's to better that. It's not even for him. In other words, it's not going to be done in time for him to really utilize it. It's for future presidents. It's more of a gift than anything else, just like Washington. Washington had the White House built, but he never lived there. But he cared about the country. And I think Trump is the same. Marantha Baptist Church. I want to talk about them for a second. I haven't done that in a little while, but a small church. It's on 306 South 23rd Avenue, right here in town. It's doing a vacation Bible school. Starts on June 29th, so you got till the end of this month to sign up. June 29th to July 3rd. 5:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Ages 4 to 12. Great opportunity. Particularly if you live right near that area. You're within, there's a lot of people within walking distance. Ages 4 to 12. You can call 928-329-9973 and talk to them. It's a nice little church looking for kids that want to go to Bible school. Great way to start the summer. See, I covered all that. NATO. Another article on NATO. We've talked about NATO a little bit. Disappointments from Trump that they're not pulling their weight. Disappointment that they're not spending the money they should spend. They're not defending themselves. They've leaned on the United States to do the defense. And I don't know if people take that seriously or not, but let me go through this article that points out some of it. It says, for more than 3 decades, the U.S. carried the largest share of NATO's military burden. Many European allies spent far less on defense than Washington wanted. Well, not only far less than what Washington wanted, but it was far less than what they agreed to spend. And NATO was formed really to protect Europe from another invasion from Russia. And Russia has always been the boogeyman out there. They want to expand. They want to take over. They wanted more people to be a part of that communist bloc. And obviously, Europe wanted to survive independent without Russia. So European allies and United States, Canada, decided to join NATO, where everybody made an agreement to join together and protect one another in case of invasion, and to build a military that they could do war games together and combined would be stronger than what the Soviet bloc could come up with. Well, the imbalance survived the Cold War. Multiple U.S. administrators repeated debates over burden sharing. I guess that's been going on for a long time. And when we say that Europe is not supporting it like they should, I mean, it's country by country had a target number according to GDP. Nobody has said you need to spend as much as the United States. We've got a bigger GDP. But following Russia's 22 invasion of Ukraine and renewed pressure from Donald Trump, many NATOs began significantly increasing spending. So that's recently. The question this article asks is why did the gap persist for so long? Why was Europe not building a defense to themselves? Defense analysts say that it's a combination of post-war optimism, post-Cold War, Cold War optimism, when the Soviet fell, and domestic political priorities in an American defense umbrella that convinced many of Europe it could safely spend less on defense without sacrificing its security. Barry Posen, he's a professor of political science at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. He says for much of the Cold War period, it's fair to say that European underinvested in defense, partially because threats were low, and partly because a series of U.S. presidents did everything they could to convince Europeans that we would stay there forever. The collapse of the Soviet Union reinforced the mindset. The primary threat to NATO had been created to deter that was suddenly gone. Governments across Europe moved to collect on the so-called peace dividend, redirecting resources towards domestic priorities and away from militaries. Between 1992 and 1999, defense spending amongst European NATO members fell 22%, establishing a pattern of underinvestment that would persist for decades, even as the United States maintained troops in Europe and continued serving as NATO ultimate security backstop. So with defense spending decline, many European governments expanded or maintained social welfare systems that consumed a growing share of public budgets, like healthcare, pensions, higher education became deeply embedded in domestic politics, making them harder to cut than military spending. Now, the U.S. continued to provide the bulk of NATO's military power, which we do. I mean, we're bigger than all the countries in Europe combined in military power. And keep in mind, all the countries combined in Europe have a higher GDP than the United States. Let that sink in. Yeah, their population is higher than the United States. Their GDP is higher than the United States. And yet, we seem to be the military might in the entire world. I would say it's more like Israel. Israel is a small country, and their military might's more than any one of the NATO members, except for the United States. And they're a country of 15 million people, and they have an air force that outpaces most everybody but us. I think they have 300 active military fighter aircraft. Germany has 200. And they're well trained in Israel, and combat ready, combat experienced. Some of it's just that Europeans just don't have. It's just kind of amazing to think about that these big countries, and they live where threats are real, and Russia's real, and Putin's willing to invade and be the boogeyman to this day, and they ignore it as if it doesn't matter, and then they partner with them for energy. They destroy their own energy ability and then say, well, we'll get it from Russia. As Russia is building, China's building militaries. And they just take it for granted we'll never need it. It's kind of crazy. European governments, let me see, higher education, all that. And the result of Europe's changing their deal and allowing and to devoting everything to public domestic priorities, they described as a moral hazard problem, the defense industry's analysis, because the U.S. commitment to NATO was viewed as ironclad. Our allies could spend less on their own without facing the full consequences of those decisions. Over time, that dynamic became self-reinforcing. As European military shrank, many allies grew increasingly dependent on American capabilities, ranging from logistics and intelligence to missile defense, strategic airlift, and nuclear deterrence. We are still having a strong conventional U.S. presence in Europe, according to NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. He said in 26, and of course, the nuclear umbrella as our ultimate guarantor. But American frustration over burden sharing is nearly as old as NATO itself. In 1953, Dwight Delano Eisenhower warned Europe allies that an American well can dry up and press them to assume a larger share of the alliance's defense burden. And of course, that issue keeps resurfacing repeatedly over decades, and as successive administrations sought greater European contributions to collective defense. Now, in a 2011 farewell speech in Brussels, then War Secretary Robert Gates warned of a dim, if not dismal, future for NATO if European governments continue underinvesting in their militaries. Gates cautioned them that there would be dwindling appetite and patience among American lawmakers and taxpayers to bear a disproportionate share of the alliance's defensive costs. I guess it's gone on forever. Trump has been the one that has been the most aggressive on let's do something, and I think he's right to pull troops out. I think he should pull troops out. It's time. Jim Townsend, he's a former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Europe and NATO, said every administration has been pushing allies to spend more money on their own defense. The issue gained renewed urgency after Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014. NATO established a benchmark for members to spend at least 2%. That's it, just 2%. And if I remember right, there's only one that actually reached it. It was Poland, I think. At least 2% of GDP on defense, while spending gradually increased. Progress remained uneven across the alliance. Nations slowly began to that, but it's been slow. In other words, they say you got a 2% benchmark by such and such a date, and it just keeps getting put off. And that's the kind of thing we still do. We put it off. They say, well, you need to be up to this level by then, and then they can procrastinate. Burden sharing disputes followed a familiar pattern. American officials urged allies to spend more. European leaders promised improvements, and NATO continued to rely heavily on American military power. That's it. It's promised improvements. It's kind of like dealing with Iran. What finally broke the cycle was the combination of Russia's growing aggression and Trump's willingness to challenge assumptions that had shaped the alliance for decades. Townsend says what really woke everyone up are two things. It was the 2022 invasion by Putin the second time, and then the second was Trump. Trump openly questioned whether the United States should defend allies that failed to meet defense spending commitments during his first term, and then again during his return to office. Trump argued that NATO members were taking advantage of American taxpayers and suggesting U.S. protection should not be unconditional. European leaders viewed Trump's approach as pressure, a warning or a negotiating tactic. It altered assumptions that had shaped the alliance since the end of the Cold War and accelerated debate that simmered for decades. The shift culminated at NATO's summit in The Hague, where allies agreed to a new goal of spending 5%. Now that's a huge number when you can't get them to do 2%. You got to spend 5% on defense and defense-related investments by 2035. Of course, they put it off to 2035. So, how many of you think that they'll be at 5% next year? Of course not. They're not going to change that quickly. The only thing that would make them change is somebody invaded them. The agreement marked a dramatic leap from NATO's longstanding 2% and reflected a growing consensus that the alliance faced a far more dangerous security environment than the one that emerged after the Soviet Union collapse. Europe remains dependent on the U.S. for capabilities ranging from air defense and logistics to intelligence and defense industrial capacity. Even as government commitment more money to defense, translating those investments into military readiness will take years. John Bryan, a concerned veteran for America, the challenge extends beyond equipment. They don't have the experience, the decades in which large multinational military command were overwhelmingly led by American officers. Running large coalition military operations requires years of institutional knowledge and leadership experience, something that cannot be rebuilt overnight. Maybe not. But it's time to get started, I would think. It's time to get it done. I'm going to take a quick break and I'll be back. Let me see if I can get that done. I have the experience. Let me see.
It's time for Lefties Losing It. Let's hear more from the man.
Mortgage One Studios, Russ Clark back with you. And it's already 8:19 on a beautiful Monday morning. I don't know what the temperature is out now. 84 it looks like. Which so it's going to be warmer today. It's going to be 103 today. Which is kind of normal. Cuz we do live in Yuma. Democratic lawmakers gripe about economic violence. That's interesting. Economic violence, and of course, that does intrigue me. Want to know, Adelita Grijalva has come up with that. Yeah, it's an Arizona Democrat that's complaining about economic violence. Late May, she complained, her and some others, about employers not providing paid leave for painful menstruation cycles. And if you don't pay for it, it's economic violence. Adelita says forcing a worker to choose between paying her rent or losing a day's pay to recover from a grueling gynecological procedure is not a choice. It's economic violence. She's joined by Representative Yasmin Ansari, another Democrat out of Arizona, Rashid Tlaib out of Michigan. They're backing Ansari's Reproductive Health Care Leave Act, which is part of her HER, Healthy Equity Rights agenda. Yeah, well, these ladies are part of a group of individuals that can't define what a woman is. But they're worried about this one. The Reproductive Health Care Leave Act is HR 8158. It's It would provide up to 12 days of paid leave per year for reproductive health needs, including severe menstrual pain, abortions, menopause symptoms, miscarriages, biopsies, vasectomies. Vasectomies? I guess for those women that need vasectomies. The agenda also includes studies regarding gynecological pain management, premenstrual dysphoria disorder. Talib said no one should have to choose between their paycheck and their health in order to be able to manage these kinds of incredible pain. And sorry, the youngest woman in Congress ties the bill to her own pain, telling a news organization in an article published on Sunday that she once woke up on the floor of her local bodega, drenched in sweat, being dragged into an ambulance. Said she has days every month when she feels like barbed wires inside her. She introduced the bill Saturday with 28 Democrat co-sponsors, 0 Republican sponsors, because Republicans don't care, obviously. Representative Marie Hopkins, a Republican, had some comments. Marie says, ladies, you can't keep saying men can be women, but then also say that women are a special category. You got to pick a lane. You're very confusing to the rest of us. Some on social media question whether the bill could more easily allow employees to discriminate against hiring women. I think they meant employers, but employers discriminating against hiring women, and shared concerns that despite it covering vasectomies, men wouldn't receive paid days for prostate issues and testosterone-related conditions. And I don't know what those would be, prostate issues or testosterone-related conditions, but yeah, but we should have that. No, we don't want to make it harder on employees. It would tell employers. It would tell employers that if you hire a female, you're going to have to pay them an additional 12 days when they don't come into work that you do for a male employee. Okay. That doesn't seem productive. So I could see where, I mean, if you had 2 people in front of you and both qualified and one's male, one's female, yeah, it might help you sway. Might give that guy a better opportunity, assuming that you can tell. And would it let biological men that claim to be females claim that they have the same simulation of pain because of sympathies or something? You know, that we know that psychologically they're, different. Maybe. I don't know where that would go. The bill would force employers to pay workers for time off to recover from abortions, which I guess. Now, the bill's endorsed by Planned Parenthood, of course. National Organization of Women, the NOW, of course. I didn't even know they were still around. The NOW group. They were really big at one time. The American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. Planned Parenthood votes, which vice president thereof is Angela Vasquez Garreau, said that there were roadblocks to the bills becoming law. If it doesn't mean lawmakers shouldn't try it. So I guess they're looking at it as a long shot, maybe. That bill might have a long shot. He said, we've seen overwhelming success from candidates who have a plan and a point of view. Just because we can't get something passed over the opposition of the majority, the time doesn't mean that we shouldn't be putting forward our vision for the world to see what we want to create. I agree with her. You should show the world what you want to create. We should know our politicians better on what they stand for. And if this is what you stand for, absolutely. Absolutely. We should know it. One of the listeners writes in that it's called sick leave or personal time. Agreed. But I think this bill is going to be added to whatever sick leave or personal time is already out there. I think is the intent. And I don't know any business that gives 12 days of sick leave or personal time. or any company that does that. Maybe. I don't know of one that says you're going to get 12 days of sick leave, 3 weeks of vacation. I don't think so. I don't know that business that does that. There might be. I could be wrong. Take a look and see. Let me see the Charo Cafe. I like them. A Mexican restaurant there. I think it's on 8th Street. It's going to host a fundraiser for longtime waitress and husband. There's a waitress that has worked there for 26 years, Maria Ruan, and her husband Caesar. The couple's been in Phoenix while Caesar undergoes medical treatment following surgery. Couple's facing significant costs associated with travel and extended hotel stay. So the restaurant, El Charo Cafe, they've organized a fundraiser. Her husband had surgery and they're in Phoenix and they're having to stay at a hotel for approximately 30 days, maybe longer. So we decided we'd see if anyone wanted to help us get together, us getting a box together, see if anyone would like to donate and help her get through the 30 days without working. And that's Anna Martinez. Anna, she's a co-owner of El Charo Cafe. It was initially planned as a one-day event. Due to strong community interest and support, the restaurant expanded it to 2 days. Restaurant co-owner Pauline Villa and said Ruan's dedication and personal connection with the customers have inspired an overwhelming response from the community. She knows her customers' orders. She knows their names. Everything about Maria is just kind of personal. And I think that's why she's had such an incredible support from this upcoming event. A portion of the proceeds from sales next Thursday and Friday, will be donated to help cover Maria and Caesar Ruan's expenses as they navigate his recovery. And this article just came out, so I'm assuming it's this coming Thursday and this coming Friday at El Charo's Cafe on 8th Street. So if you like Mexican food at all, or you want to support this, I mean, it's really nice that an employee that's been there for 26 years is that well supported by the business that she has supported for those years and by the customers thereof. Wonderful deal. Nice to hear that people are coming together. And I think that about Yuma a lot, actually. Yuma's like that. Let me see. San Piker. You may not know him. He's a Marxist political influencer. And, you know, his name comes up with a lot of Marxist, Democrat Marxist politicians that list him as a friend or an advisor, pays him as an advisor or stuff like that. But he's 100% Marxist. Well, his name's come up quite a bit lately. I don't know why, but he shows up at protests and anti-ICE, a lot of rhetoric on his websites and stuff or social media. He's quite the anti-Semite. And well, the Treasury's Department Office of Foreign Asset Control, OFAC, sent an administrative subpoena seeking financial, logistical, and communications records related to his March trip to Cuba as part of an investigation into whether he violated U.S. sanction laws against doing business with the communist regime running the island nation, which is interesting and worthwhile, I assume. Well, last night during protest outside an immigration and customs enforcement facility in Newark, New Jersey, hecklers confronted him, calling him a blanking fraud and a grifter and a dog abuser. Tell him to go back to the desktop. Now, Piker's denying allegations that he trained his dog with a shock collar. I'm going to break for a second and talk about the shock collar for a minute. Now, I have a dog, Lexi, who's an out of control at times, wonderful little terrier. And I was bringing her into the show quite a bit when I was at the other studio, and she would bark because she felt like the studio was my domain, and I guess she was protecting me. I don't know. And I wanted to train her not to bark. So I bought a shock collar. Now, the shock collar will automatically, when she barks, give either a signal or some light voltage shock up to a punishing voltage if you wanted to. I bought it, I don't know, 6 months ago. I've never put it on her. I just can't bring myself. I mean, I know it's not, and I've read a lot about it, and I've read that it's a training device. It's to train a dog, not punish a dog. It's not meant as a painful. In fact, I've seen some videos on people that do train dogs and said that the one that would cause, you know, an abrupt shock would be used if the dog was in danger running in traffic or something, not as a way to train. That's not a way to train a dog, is to do that. Now, that doesn't mean people don't do that they don't do that to a dog. But I just haven't had the heart to put that on her. Because I know so many people have abused it, and I didn't want that label of being a guy that would shock his dog. I wouldn't do that. But I like the device, and it's described as because a dog can be far away, you know, and you can still get a message, a beep to them that they need to return. Because it is audible. There's an audible, and then there's a shock, which feels more like a vibration. And no, I haven't tested it on myself yet, but of course I would before I ever put it on a dog. But anyway, Piker told his loyal following on the gaming platform Twitch that British authorities denied his electronic travel authorization. Now, to go to Britain is real easy. You just get online and you say you're coming, and it's all electronic, and they just issue an approval within seconds. You know, Helen and I went to Ireland for that destination wedding when her son got married, and we had to travel through Britain. You know, it was a layover. And to do that, we had to get an electronic authorization. It was like a $25 deal or something, and it's good for a few years. And I guess it's not even a big deal. Well, we instantly got, we got an email back almost instantly that everything's cool. Took the money from us and gave us authorization to be in the country. Well, he got turned down. He got denied on that. It's prevented him from traveling to the United Kingdom. Now, he had some events that he had planned to go to. Events in London and in Oxford Union. And approved U.S. travelers to the U.K. can enter the country with a simple electronic travel authorization, which is easier than a formal visa. Piker writes, I've been banned from the UK. I've been to the UK on numerous occasions, and of all the things they're complaining about now are things I've said before. This is blanking ridiculous. Now, he's even considering applying for a formal visa, but he thinks the chances are low because he's an instigator. I guess people are finally catching on to it. Now, such a move by the UK could be significant because it would mark a potential red line that a Western government has drawn regarding the importation of extremist ideas and ideological movements that officials believe may contribute to social unrest, extreme or political violence. Piker said he was denied entry for alleged anti-Semitism, which he denies, and then proceeded to lash out at Jewish organizations that he said had campaigned against his visit. He claimed they wielded excess influence over British policy. Israel advocacy organizations have unbelievable amounts of power over what even the United Kingdom has to say or do. If you're an avowed anti-Zionist, your travel will be restricted. Well, he claims to be an avowed anti-Zionist. That's self-described. I got a text from Michael Carbone. He says he'd be happy to call in on Wednesday. So I'll give him a reply back. We'd love to hear from Michael Carbone, and I do want to talk about Wednesday on those AI centers. The data centers. I said they're not really AI centers; they're data centers. They keep cloud stuff and all that, but the misinformation going out about them is huge. And I want to see what he's discovered from visiting and talking, and we do want to get more involved in it and more educated on what they are and they are not, so that if we get the opportunity to have one in Yuma, we put in one that conforms to being a good neighbor. Like not taking all our water, like not making the power rates go up, those kind of things, which I believe is all doable. I know for a fact that many of them have their own powers and they don't use water. I mean, excessively. They're still going to have a kitchen in there and a toilets, but not millions of gallons of water like a farmer would use or something, and not grow vegetables. I mean, you use millions of gallons of water, but grow food. But anyway, get back to Piker. He believed that the U.S. deserved the 9/11 attack and he got a backlash for that, for its foreign policy decisions. The Jewish Leadership Council and Community Security Trust argued that Piker's presence in Yuma in Britain would not be conducive to the public good. And they just have to show his own comments to everyone. His comments about Hamas, Hezbollah, Zionism, Orthodox Jews. I mean, he's very prolific on social media on how he feels about things. David Taylor, who's with the Labor Party, also called the Home Office to revoke Piker's visa ahead of scheduled appearances at the London program, arguing that his rhetoric had contributed to concerns within Britain's Jewish community. Now, keep in mind that Britain has a really aggressive anti-speech type policies. You get fined for writing nonsense on social media. I mean, stuff like you say, I don't like the government sucks or something, you could get fined. So I don't know what you do with a guy like Piker other than just tell him he can't come to the country. And I'm not agreeing with what Britain's doing. I think that attack on free speech is a little over the top. Piker rejected accusations of anti-Semitism, saying his criticism of Israel has been conflated with hatred of Jews. He said the decision reflected a broader trend in which governments are suppressing anti-Israel voices. Yeah, it's anti-Israel voices like they deserve to be invaded by Hamas type stuff. Kind of crazy. He says that's straight up fascism. Being critical of Israel while combating anti-Semitism is not a good enough reason to bar someone entry into the country, according to Piker. Not according to Britain. Piker warned that the alleged UK decision could set a precedent for other Western countries, including Australia and Canada, potentially restricting his future travel. I generally did not think this would happen. We're moving into a very different timeline. I think Piker's right. I think we are moving into a different timeline. The tolerance of these agitators and instigators to create havoc and riots. And of course, these guys are supported by who knows who. I mean, the FBI's looking into it. They're tracking money now. They're seeing who's funding these things, which offshore, foreign countries are funding these guys that cause riots and agitation within our country. And I think they should do that. I think they should. Piker's case intersects with broader inquiry into influence of transnational activist networks operating within the United States. And that's something I know that Kash Patel and others are working on, those influence that land in the United States in order to cause chaos and havoc and riots. Piker said the Treasury Department's investigation into the Cuba trip may ultimately be focused on Neville Roy Singham. Now, he's an American Marxist businessman living in Shanghai, and he has for some time. He's under CCP rule. And he has funded a network of nonprofit organizations and activist groups that have drawn scrutiny from lawmakers and administration officials. Yes, he has. And I know he's being investigated at this point. It's been on many articles that he's been investigated because that's pretty much CCP money at this point. The organization is funded by Singham is Code Pink, which also has received Treasury Department administrative subpoenas related to their participation in the March convoy to Cuba as well as groups such as Party for Socialism and Liberation and the Answer Coalition. All three of these organizations openly identify with socialist or communist political traditions, have been prominent organizers of anti-Israel demonstrations across the United States since the October 7th, 2023 attacks by Hamas against Israel. Yes, they have been, and they've paid money for people to show up to their events. They pay for activists like Piker to be an influencer and get people to get involved. Critics argue that these demonstrations have created hostile environments for Jews in the UK, US, and elsewhere, including the use of slogans such as "From the River to the Sea," which calls for the elimination of Israel. See, last night at the ICE protest, the Piker defended the groups as led by wonderful people. Piker ended his podcast defiant, angry, and seemingly deflated for the moment. Bro, they banned me from the UK. And then finally closing the podcast saying, I'm done for the day. I hope he is. I think we need less Pikers, more supporters. Cory Booker, not one of my favorite politicians, but he's a Democrat out of New Jersey. We see, and a senator, that he's having concerns, which is kind of telling about Graham Plattner. Now, Graham Plattner is running for the Senate in Maine as a Democrat. And he's got a lot of skeletons in the closet, a lot of things he shouldn't be proud of, as most people do. Most people have a little bit. I mean, he seems to have a long history and a current actions of just unacceptable behavior. But it's enough to get a fellow Democrat to say that there's a concern. I think that's telling. Let me see, he had these concerns when he was appearing at ABC this week. He was asked about the latest scandal plaguing Plattner's campaign. As it was reported that Plattner had sent explicit messages to at least 6 women, despite being married. The host asked him, says, do you have concerns with the weight of all these controversies that may be jeopardize the Democratic hopes to get that Senate seat in Maine? Booker says, yes, I have concerns. That guy has questions to answer, and that's what campaigns are for. I think that's a pretty big statement when, the Democrats want another senator for sure. They want to support the senator for sure. But that hesitation and say he has to answer these questions, that's about as much withdrawal as you're going to see. But then he started discussing his concerns over the Democratic Party failing to take back the Senate in 26. Of course, maybe he'll put up with a Plattner to take back the Senate. He says, I know that so much is riding on Democrats taking control of the Senate, that this election, if we do not get the votes necessary to take care of the House and the Senate, we will continue to have an out-of-control president. So, of course, Booker wants to say, hold your nose and vote for Graham Plattner just to kill Donald Trump. I mean, politically. I don't mean he's going after him violently, but politically. Plattner's campaign confirmed about the text anyway. The text exchanged a political following report from the Wall Street Journal that claimed his wife, Amy Gertner, had told a campaign aide about the text, the explicit text to six women while he's married to her. After he launched his Senate bid, NSA began looking into potential political liabilities. So I guess they had a roundtable discussing political liabilities. because I think any campaign wants to hit them off at the pass, discuss what the liabilities are, what the vulnerabilities are, so that they can, get ready for the attacks and how are we going to handle this? Well, Amy says, so it makes me really angry, disappointed, and I find it really shameful that there's a group of media outlets and people who are willing to spread gossip instead of talking about real issues that Graham is running on, like healthcare and education and childcare. Well, I think that's a typical response. That probably came out of that organization. Like, well, what do we say when they point out all this nastiness that Graham's been involved in? And I'm sure that's a rehearsed line. They get ready for those things. We need to move on. We need to talk about real issues. We need to change the subject. That's all they can do. They don't want to talk about. Like, why would you send 6 females these kinds of emails when you're married? Even if you weren't married, why would you do that? But anyway. He also faces other controversies, including the now covered up tattoo that resembles a Nazi symbol. I've heard stories say it resembles a Nazi symbol or it is a Nazi symbol. I don't know which is true. And controversial comments on Reddit, minimizing sexual assault and making crude remarks about masturbation, and a deleted post where he claimed a wounded soldier didn't deserve to live. Yeah, I remember reading all that. And yeah, he's not a character I'd like to know very well. He's kind of a aggressive, negative guy. He doesn't really like the military. He really trashed the military, even though he's I'm not retired, but he's former military. He liked his unit, though. He just hated the military in general, from what his post said. Let me see. Now, I made a comment about Washington and the White House, and that he never lived there, but he was one that approved it. He said the reason Washington was selected as a capital was because of an agreement between Hamilton and Madison on assuming the debts of the states incurred during the Revolutionary War, as Hamilton wanted. In return, Hamilton garnered enough votes to select D.C. as the nation's capital. Oxford Union has great debates. Hasn't something similar happened in the U.S.? Criticism of Israel government is equated with anti-Semitism. Look at what happened to Thomas Massey with AIPAC. And AIPAC, I don't know. Thomas Massey was accused of anti-Semitism, and I think AIPAC put out some stuff about not supporting Thomas Massey, and Thomas Massey lost. I don't know who runs AIPAC, but I don't think it's. I don't know. But as far as Washington, I said something about Washington, George Washington, involvement in the Capitol. I mean, the White House, even though he didn't get to live there. Just like Trump's being involved in the ballroom, he won't be able to use it. Really, it won't be done in time for his presidency. But D.C. was selected as the nation's capital. It was, if I remember right, it was 10 acres from Virginia and 10 acres from Maryland that were donated. Which, according to this listener, it may have been and to relieve the debts or something. I have no idea on that. I've never researched that, but those 10 acres from each state made a 20-acre capital, and the rationale behind that was that we'd have a capital that was not beholden to a state, that did not belong to a state, that the state didn't influence the capital. It was a strictly federal property, which it exists in today. Still federal property. It's not a state. Now the Democrats have asked, well, Washington should be a state. We want to make those 10 acres a state. And the reason for that is that we get 2 new senators, and we know that Washington's like 98% Democrat. That's an exaggeration. It's probably not 98, but it's probably closer to 98 than it is 80 percent Democrat. So of course they want to make that city a state because it would give them an advantage of those 2 senators and 1 House member. But it was specifically set up to not be in a state. And I didn't know this until recently, that after I think it was after the Civil War that Virginia retook the 10 acres. See, the Pentagon is in Virginia. Well, it would have been and it would be in D.C., except Virginia took back their 10 acres, and now that is like one of the most rich counties in the whole United States. Is that county that those 10 acres, and it was suggested that the federal government should take it back. I mean, it was part of Washington D.C. It was donated as part of Washington D.C. by Virginia, and take it back during the Civil War. And for some reason, they never swapped it back into D.C. But that would be cool to do that, to bring that right back into D.C. And that would change the complexion of D.C. also. I mean, it'd still be Democrat, but it would have funds. It would change it, I think, which would be interesting. I for one would like to see that. I think it would be an interesting discussion. I don't know how you get that done. This article from a week ago or so, but it's about Marjorie Taylor Greene. Which Marjorie Taylor Greene was a Republican, and she was known as a Trump supporter, MAGA, and kind of out there. I mean, vocal and stuff like that. She was a lot of fun to watch and stuff. She was not one to hold back on her feelings about things, but she's flipped completely. I mean, she's now, I don't know if she's still a Republican even. She may have become an independent or I doubt it's a Democrat, but independent for sure. And she shows up on Republican, or I'm sorry, Democrat type stations, The View and CNN and all that kind of stuff. Because she's been attacking the Republican Party now. I mean, now that she left the Republican Party, she wants it to be destroyed. She declared that the future of the GOP has been destroyed. I'm proud and thankful to have served in the United States House of Representatives with my friend, Thomas Massey, a giant among weak, pathetic men. Releasing the Epstein files was our demise, but it was worth every single bit because now everyone knows the truth. You are ruled by the Epstein class that cares nothing about you, and your elected leaders are bought and controlled by a foreign lobby. That's the new Marjorie Taylor Greene. Tonight, the future of the Republican Party was destroyed. The real American First Movement will rise, led by the younger generation who hate the old guard with an unquenchable passion. Let us pray that we have a country left by the time these creatures are gone. And I think she includes Trump in that now, too. And she's mad that Massey was pushed out and stuff. Let me see, Representative Aaron Cochran, Indiana, after the congresswoman wrote in Post-X, happy to deliver the news to President real Donald Trump, the results from the Kentucky primary and his defeat of Thomas Massey. Well done, Trump team. Congratulations. Well, Greene is really flipped. I don't know who she's aligned with at this point. She says the younger Republicans. I don't know who that is. Massey in his concession speech says, I would have come out sooner, but I had to call my opponent and concede. And it took a while to find Ed Gowron in Tel Aviv. I guess that's a dig that he's pro-Israel or something. I don't think he was really in Tel Aviv. But anyway, Representative Randy Fine of Florida posted a graphic that depicted Massey with large tears and labeled the lawmaker a loser. Lindsey Graham, which at times I like Lindsey Graham's. I do. At times I don't know. But the power of Donald Trump is real, he writes. Now, he's been against Donald Trump in the past. In fact, after J6, I mean, he completely thought Donald Trump should be out of business. But I think now Lindsey Graham understands that was all a setup. So congratulations to Ed Gowron for an amazing victory against serious opposition. I believe he will bring a lot to the United States House of Representatives. He is a warrior and businessman, someone who has truly sacrificed for our nation. As to Representative Massey, we had many differences, but I will always admire the fact that he stayed true to his beliefs and fought for his causes. I wish him and his family well, which is very polite. We need more polite. Probably, I don't know. We need Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't think her comments. I don't think her comments are destructive in any way. But I think people should stand for what they are. I mean, it just helps to define her, who she is. It doesn't. No one needs to silence her. In fact, the more she talks, the better. It's fine. I see my listener said that DC is about 68 square miles, which would be a lot bigger than 10 acres. And maybe I had the 10 acres wrong. But 68 square miles doesn't sound right either. But I certainly have not done the investigation. Size of DC, it shouldn't be hard to get. Yep, 68.35 square miles. It's which is not very big. It's making it one of the most compact major cities in the United States. Land is 61 and the water area is 7 square miles. It's roughly 60% the size of San Francisco, 17 smaller than Rhode Island. Wow. Well, I'll have to do I'll have to find out how it got to be so big, because I remember reading the contributions, but I'm at a loss. I'm not up to date on that, so I'll have to figure that out. So thanks for letting me know. But I know there were contributions from Maryland and Virginia, and Virginia took part of its land back. So where they got the rest of it, maybe that was agreement later on. I don't know. I'll have to look at the history on the size of Washington D.C. and take a look at that. But it's not that big. It's worth visiting. I mean, it was a city already. And David Abera chimes in and says, "Happy Monday, happy Monday, Veteran Dave. Good to hear from you. Just in time for me to go. I know I'm a minute early. I got work to do. I got to take off. Thanks for listening, and I'll be back tomorrow."